That if you want to speak.
Hello, good evening. We're going to do a sound check with the people on Zoom, please. Miss Wright, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you. Good evening, Mr. Egan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Thank you. Mr. Phytros, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Thank you.
Thank you.
You want a little water?
Down, it'll turn green.
The Rigefield Park Board of Education Open Public Meetings Act Statement. The New Jersey Open Public Meetings Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend the meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interest is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Rigefield Park Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted in the Bergen Record, Municipal Building, Board of Education offices, and district website. Public participation instructions. Public participation will be conducted both in person and virtually through Zoom. All public will be muted during the meeting. Public participation comments are limited to 5 minutes. The public will be able to both speak and be seen by the board when participating virtually, telephonically, via Zoom. Individuals participating virtually that wish to make comments during the public participation will need to raise their hand by clicking the blue hand icon at the bottom of their Zoom window. Individuals participating by telephone that wish to make comments during public participation will need to hit *9 on their telephone to raise their hand. The Business Administrator Board Secretary will then unmute individuals one at a time to speak in the order that their hand was raised.
Okay, moving on to minutes to be approved.
Resolution to open public meeting?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Make a motion?
Do we have a second?
Second.
Going to take a roll call. Mr. Phytros? Mr. Gibbons?
Here.
Mr. Gomes?
Here.
Mrs. McNeil?
Here.
Dr. Martinez?
Here.
Mrs. Orth?
Here.
Mrs. Rodriguez?
Here.
Mr. Vercelli?
Here.
Mr. Cathcart? And President Fernandez.
Here.
Also present, Acting Superintendent, Dr. Barry Haynes, School Business Administrator, Carrie Grapstein, Attorney, Kerry Wright, and Mr. Tom Egan, New Jersey State Fiscal Monitor.
Thank you. Moving on to minutes. None to approve.
None to approve.
Moving on to communications. Dr. Haynes.
So as part of the communications from the superintendent this week, I sent out a transportation memo that described some of the reorganization in our transportation department to the community. And part of that memo included an area where the public could ask questions. So we took the questions that we received from that survey, and they are posted back at our district website. So if you go to the district website and under the Board of Education tab, go down to Board of Education questions and answers. You will find there a link to there were about 7 or 8 transportation questions that came in. They are answered there at the Board of Education question and answer website. I show this now as far as communications also, because tonight we have 4 large presentations. And while we may not always get time for questions and answers, or there may be questions that we want to answer in more depth, there's a form to fill out for specifically tonight's 10/19/22 meeting. And the link for that, and I'll stop sharing screen. The link for that is the tiny URL that's now on your camera. So if any members of the public or anybody online has questions of the meeting tonight, please submit them to this address and they'll be answered like the transportation questions. And that ends the communication report. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to committee reports. Faculties and programs with Trustee Rodriguez.
Good evening. The Faculties and Program Committee met on October 13th. Dr. Barry Haynes, Acting Superintendent, President George Fernandez, Trustee Chris Gibbons, Trustee Dr. Ricardo Martinez, Trustee Michelle Orth, and myself were present. The science curriculum is proposed for the new proposed science curriculum for 2023-2024, and also the social studies curriculum proposed new for 2024 and 2025. Obviously, there will be a committee, and the committee will review and also look at demos for materials and resources and make a recommendation in spring 2023. Other agenda items, we discussed a computer lab at Lincoln and Grant, and also the subcommittee, the social justice subcommittee, and Dr. Ricardo Haynes, oh, goodness gracious, Martin. Okay, will report on, there will be a social cafe. We also discussed the PSAT for students. We discussed 7th grade games, and also the NJSLA. Hopefully, the acting superintendent will report out on that.
Okay, moving on to Subcommittee of Social Justice, Dr. Martinez, please.
I just want to mention that the subcommittee, the homeschool subcommittee, did not meet.
The Social Justice Subcommittee has come up with a long overdue date for our Social Justice Cafe. The date is November 1st at 7 p.m. via Zoom. The invitation has been sent out to the entire district. A reminder was sent out today. So please attend and please get other people to attend. Part of what we'll be doing that day is facilitating discussion in breakout rooms, what they call listening circles, regarding what the term social justice means, what it should mean, and what it doesn't mean in our district. Now, a year later, actually 2 years since the resolution was signed by the board, we'll be presenting some slides on the few policies that are already in place so that parents know what to expect from our teachers and administrators in areas such as HIB incidences, special education, FERPA privacy rules, and transgender youth policy, to name a few. Administrators will also share progress made with this initiative, and the community and other stakeholders will get to discuss the next steps for this committee and for the community. So I ask you to please attend and please get other people to attend. The last Social Justice Cafe we had was actually very, very good, and I look forward to this one. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Moving on to Buildings and Grounds, Dr. Barry Haynes.
Buildings and Grounds did not meet before this meeting. We're looking at another meeting mid-November prior to our next board meeting.
Thank you, sir. Finance and Insurance, Trustee Gomes.
The Finance Committee met last Tuesday. We discussed several important topics, including the need to for the board to approve the bus routes. That's currently being written by the acting busing coordinator. And then we will have a resolution to approve the bus routes. We also discuss whether it would make sense that we such a small district should be providing busing, or should this be something that would be outsourced? The BA and acting superintendent, we're going to meet and discuss this, including all the costs associated with busing, which includes required drug testing, maintenance for the buses, et cetera, and they will get back to us. The acting superintendent did share with us some good news about the grant for the early childhood program. Since we were awarded a grant this year, we will not need to reapply for it. It will kind of be grandfathered in for us. And finally, there is dire need for someone to help manage some of our district grants, and the acting superintendents will be discussing that further. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Personnel, trustee Gibbons?
Yes, the Personnel Committee met on Monday, the 17th. All members were present, including Dr. Haynes and Mrs. Grapstein. All personnel matters on the agenda were discussed, and if there were any questions, they were asked. The grant coordinator position was discussed, the acting busing coordinator position, and any remedies to fix any issues were discussed, along with resignation as well.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to negotiations, trustee Vercelli?
Our negotiations meeting was canceled or postponed just due to Mr. Egan wants to get caught up with everything before we go.
Thank you, sir. Moving on to policy, Dr. Martinez?
The policy committee met on Monday, the 17th. Present were Dr. Haynes, Carrie Grapstein, trustees Rodriguez, Orth, McNeil, Fernandez, and myself. Topics covered included the use of facilities. We're getting closer and closer to being able to have a fee scale that is fair and equitable across different organizations that use our facilities, with the board and the rec, and board and some local users of our facilities not being charged, but making sure that it's fair and equitable for others that use the facilities. We also spoke about how to make sure that outside groups using our facilities are aware of the security measures that we have in place. We talked about the upcoming election and the use of schools for election. The district has not been able to change well, I'll back up. Last year, some people expressed safety concerns about having people voting in the schools while classes were in session. And so the district wasn't able to change the locations. That takes a little longer with the county. But what we are exploring is whether to have, to request extra police presence. I believe it's a half day for the students and professional development day for staff. And most of the schools can also lock off voting areas, but this issue will be revised by our security department. New policies that were discussed, most of them were basic and recommended by Strauss Esme. There's a change in verbiage to some of the old policies to be gender neutral in wording. Some of the return to school measures, if another COVID emergency were to happen, it's also a requirement that we have a policy for that. And someone brought up the quorum item last meeting. The quorum item, the change in the quorum was not the number or anything like that. It was basically that we are not allowed to start after 8 p.m. waiting for quorum. We discussed a little bit about the safety audit, again, how to communicate safety protocols to outside user facilities. And we also talked about returning to post-COVID or pre-COVID normal board operations with Zoom. And the board will be discussing whether executive sessions should be moved to the library to ensure more confidentiality, whether executive sessions will be, participants will have to be in person rather than on Zoom. And with the request that trustees for the general meeting, if they can't be present, make sure that they're in a well-lit, quiet place and that they're on the camera for the entire time. The board president and the acting superintendent are going to be speaking about how to tighten up the use of our attorney in meetings. And from now on, the communication section of the meeting will include any communications that come from the public or other agencies to the entire board. Thank you.
Dr. Martinez, thank you so much. I just want to add some new information. So to confirm, November 8th is election day, and that day schools are closed for students. However, it is a staff development day, and because we support and protect our teachers also, I have asked for the SLEOs to be on duty that day. So they will also be present on November 8th, even though there are not students here.
Thank you for that. Thank you for all the chairmans for their committee reports. That concludes our committee reports. Moving on to superintendent's, acting superintendent's report. Dr. Haynes.
Thank you, President Fernandez. So first, back to the New Jersey state law. It brings me such joy to introduce Gabriela Gutierrez and Ashley Montoya, sitting on our right, part of the Board of Education as our student representatives. Thank you for being here. Polite applause is welcome from the audience. And I say again, as I did last time, you are not required to stay past 9:30 so that you can go home and do homework if our meeting exceeds that time. Thank you again for joining us. We have some great presentations tonight, and the first one I'd kick off by inviting Mrs. Candy Ramba up to be presented an award by the VFW, please.
What? Speak.
I don't know where they want it.
Can you hear me now? I'm Joan Carlson, the VFW of Rigefield Park, and this is Marie Storman, president. Candy has done through her time as coordinator an outstanding job to help the VFW. We work with the Traces program in Hackensack. The Traces helps vets in need. They were getting housing, but most of the housing is completed. They need very simple things. Tuna fish, peanut butter, chicken salad. We were able to collect almost $900 worth of those products and gave them to the vets in need. I think for just a very, she got the cooperation of some of the grammar schools and the high school, sorry. I get them for something else too. So I need to thank her, and Marie will present her. You want to read it? You don't have to.
County of Bergen, New Jersey, Certificate of Appreciation, Candace Roomba, Ridgefield Park Elementary School Coordinator, in grateful recognition of your support for our community veterans and compassionate commitment to the veterans we serve. Congratulations.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
And just to add to that, the Traces program, the veterans that have served us in a home now need very little things. They need tuna fish, they need underwear. And it's a shame that these guys put their life on the line and come home and need such trivial little items. So we're all trying to help them get what they need, because without them, we wouldn't have what we have.
Thank you so much. If I could ask you to step up, because the Board of Education would like to take a photo with you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Candy, we can't thank you enough. So as Bernard Gomes said a few minutes ago, that came up in, which committee meeting was that again? The, about the universal pre-K and the grants. Finance Committee. There were a lot of questions as we were awarded the grant, and we brought on another entity into our fold as a school district, and that is the co-op school that is currently running a pre-K. And I can't do enough justice to this program without inviting all of the people who are responsible, both from the co-op and from our district, and turn the floor over to Ms. Diane Thiemann to explain the program and to welcome our partnership. Ms. Thiemann?
Good evening, everyone. It's my pleasure to discuss with all of you tonight the PEA grant and universal preschool. I'd like to start off with some introductions. So I have with me this evening, I have our director of the co-op preschool, Amar Kalinovic. Our head teacher, Brianne Heaney, is unavailable this evening. She's a little under the weather. We have our teaching assistant, Donna Noonan, as our students all yell Miss Donna every time she walks in the room. And then we have representing our Early Childhood Advisory Council, Miss Sharon Ramirez. The Early Childhood Advisory Council is comprised of members of the community that meet regularly to discuss improvements to the universal preschool. On the committee is Sharon Ramirez and Mary Appel O'Neill. They're both active community members and they have children in the district. And in addition to that, they also are both preschool teachers in other districts. And one of them works in a universal preschool setting, which both bring so much to the table in helping us incorporate what we are doing now in Rigefield Park. We also have Francine Orovitz, an active community member, formerly associated with Office of Emergency Management, active involvement throughout the years in our district. We have Donna Noonan, who has a long-standing experience with the co-op, child in the district, active community member, and quite honestly, invaluable member of the co-op because she has so much history with it, with her own children going there and has been working there for many, many years. And I cannot thank her enough for all the support that she has given to us. She really has a wealth of knowledge of the co-op and their reputation. And she's been at the forefront of this from the very start. She was my initial contact. She brought me Amar Kalinovic into the fold to make sure we were able to finalize the deal with the co-op. In addition, on the ECAC committee, we have 3 teachers that are Rigefield Park School District teachers. We have Miss Christy Latour Bush, Kristen Oliveri, and Miss Adriana Manzo. They all have preschool experience and early childhood experience. They have also, in addition, they've been with our learning community for a very long time at this point. Okay, we go on to the next slide. So there's a link there that I'm just going to ask if that could be opened. This is an article stating Governor Murphy's commitment to pre-K. He feels that the universal program is finally off the ground, as it is for us here in Rigefield Park. However, it can take several more years to see it through to fruition. As Mr. Gomes had mentioned before, they've taken a little curve with the program. Instead of reapplying for the grant every year, instead, we're going to just keep showing our commitment and our growth, which I'll talk more about that later. Also of note is Rigefield Park is the only community in Bergen County to be awarded the PEA grant this year. That's very important. We need to realize that there were many districts that applied in Bergen County, and we are the only one that was awarded the grant this year. With a lot of persistence. Yes, that is amazing. with a lot of persistence and convincing, we were awarded that grant. And I really truly believe this is the right thing for the Richfield Park School District. Okay, moving right along. Why the co-op? So the history of the co-op preschool is an outstanding, rich community because it has almost 50 years of excellence. I believe we're coming up on that year right now. Its history is high quality instruction. This is what they've always been known for. They have an exceptional reputation and always have in the community. And on top of that, something that is very important to me is safety is always a top priority. I'm very impressed with what I saw as soon as I went into the co-op. And with this funding, things are just growing exponentially at this point, and so much more is able to happen. But the co-op simply was chosen because of their excellent reputation. They do have that long-standing tradition of high parent involvement. That's another important reason why the co-op was chosen. And it's our hope that to continue that tradition of the high parent involvement so that as our preschool students enter into our public school setting, that involvement will continue. On to the next slide. The co-op partnership. Our partnership officially began on October 1st with our first day of school on October 3rd. It's a new logo for the school, new t-shirts, new mascot, and absolutely a new classroom. For those of you that were able to join us for the ribbon cutting, it was really a great moment to be able to show off the classroom because, quite honestly, you know, the co-op has been in existence for almost 50 years. As Ms. Noonan has mentioned, that some of the stuff was there from when her children were little in the program. And to see all of that go out of the building and either be donated or discarded and all brand new furniture come in. And in that 48 hours, the turnover rate of taking everything out, bringing everything brand new was an incredible feeling, incredible to be part of. And I cannot thank Ms. Kalanovic, Ms. Noonan, and Ms. Heaney for working literally through the night for those 48 hours, getting all that equipment out, getting everything set up. They were absolutely incredible. And in addition, we also had parents of the co-op students who came and were just working tirelessly to make the preschool what it is now. So we're super excited. Since we had our ribbon cutting, we've had some more upgrades, including our front lobby painted and redesigned. So every day there's something new going on there, and we're super proud of that. The penguin that you see up there, as Ms. Ramirez has, is our new t-shirts, our new logos. And the biggest part for us is the partnering with the RP Public Schools. This is really exciting times for us. Okay, next slide. Oh, yes, that's important to point out, Ms. Noonan. So the penguin was chosen by the preschoolers. They voted on what they wanted as their mascot, and that's how those t-shirts came to be. So first universal classroom. You'll see the classroom itself, some learning activities happening. The class consists of students that were registered for the co-op in the spring of 2021. Students had already been guaranteed their spots and submitted deposits. Our students, only students that were removed from the program were the out-of-town residents. So what happened was there were 18 students enrolled for the co-op for this year. 3 of those students had to be removed because they did not live in Rigefield Park, and their deposits had to be refunded. So anybody that had any questions about the classroom setup, that is how the class was determined. It was the students that were enrolled from the previous spring were given those spots. As for moving forward, there will be a lottery system, which I'll talk more about in a couple of slides from now. In addition, the students were certified as residents and registered through our district system of registering all our students. Ms. Thompson was extremely efficient in registering and certifying all the students in what was an incredibly short amount of time. We had a very quick turnover rate. We had to get everything set up. The funding wasn't approved until September, and we had to be up and running by October 1st. So magic really had to happen to get not only all the students certified, all the equipment ordered, everything delivered, and everything set up. Okay. Next slide. This is just a picture of the ribbon cutting ceremony. I want to say a special thanks to Mayor Anlian for coming and all those that participated in the ribbon cutting. It was certainly a great day, and we went a little off script with the ribbon because all the students were super excited and wanted to take a piece of the ribbon home. So they did just that. They went to town with their little scissors. Next slide, please. So brand new learning environment. Thank you. We have all new furniture, equipment, and most importantly, an all new curriculum. High level of excellence has always been at the history and forefront of the co-op. However, now they have the additional support of the state approved curriculum. The curriculum that has been adopted is referenced as creative curriculum. We've ordered and already received the curriculum. The teacher, the director, and the teaching assistant have been getting very familiar with the curriculum already, infusing it into all the lessons. And by the 1st of November, all of our curriculum will be driven by creative curriculum, and all state regulations as far as the curriculum will be adhered to. Next slide. This is just a sampling of some of the exciting things that have been going on. We had our very first class trip as a universal preschool was last Friday. We went to Demarest Farm. The students and parents had an incredible time, as did the staff. We went on a hayride. We went pumpkin picking. We had donuts, apple cider. It was an absolute incredible day. And what I kept, as an educator in this district for over 25 years, what I kept coming back to was the sense of community that these parents have. These parents have already become a close-knit family, and having them all come together on this trip was a really exciting moment because they are the groundbreaking class. They are the history of what will be talked about in the future. These 15 students are our first universal preschool, and as adorable as they are and as sweet as these kids are, it's about history in the making for Rigefield Park School District. It truly is. We have many more exciting events that are being planned for the near future, so we'll definitely be sharing pictures. As far as our next steps, we have a proposal for our expansion. What we plan is on November 2022, I will be submitting to the state of New Jersey my request for additional funding for 3 added classes. We will be adding on 3 additional classes that will be coordinated by the co-op team. We will be adding 45 additional students to the program, for a total of 60 students for the 23rd-24th school year. Each year, the program will be expanded until our universal goal has been achieved. Why that's so important is for the next 5 years, that's exactly our goal. What we will be doing is expanding each year. So next year, our goal is 3 additional classrooms. So this year, it was our proof of concept, our 1 classroom to get it up and running, especially because of the short time frame. We had less than 30 days to put that together. So we have that class. It's successfully up and running. We know exactly what's required by the state now. And in addition, I've already been to state trainings. We know exactly what we need to be doing. And in addition, they've been, we definitely lucked out as far as our state officials that Rigefield Park School District has been assigned. They've been absolutely incredible. I've been meeting with them on a regular basis. Ms. Noonan was actually part of the one Zoom session. They stayed on with us for almost 2 hours. They were incredible and very supportive of what we are doing here in Rigefield Park, and they were extremely impressed with as much as we have been able to accomplish in such a short time. So if we can move on to the next slide. So for the spring 2023, what we're planning is the next year for the Universal Preschool Program will focus on, as I said, the expansion of the 3 additional classrooms. Establishing the classroom locations, setup of the classrooms, and hiring of staff will be paramount for the spring of 2023. So as I said, we set up this one classroom in less than 30 days, but this time we'll have that advance notice. I can tell you that we worked with Kaplan to set up the initial classroom. We will continue our partnership with them. They've been a great resource. Their product is absolutely quality. The ladies can attest to the fact that everything they've brought into the classroom is top notch. As for the spots, I think this is the big question everybody's wanting to know. So there will be a lottery for the 45 additional preschool eligible students. I plan on utilizing the Elks building, renting it out for the day. We're going to invite everybody that wishes to be part of it to either choose to be in person or Facebook Live. We're going to ask Mayor Anlian to be present to pull the names out of literally a bingo mixer. So those 45 spots are going to be extremely coveted. We know everybody's going to want it. We have a wait list now, I think that exceeds over 30 people for this year alone. So we know the need is there, that's for sure. And we plan on having an open lottery system so everybody could be present. I, of course, invite all the Board of Education members to be present for it as well. We would love to have more of you there to certify the authenticity of the process. That would be great. And we will be announcing more information through Office of Emergency Management, social media, and Reverse 911 news blasts as to when the open enrollment will start. And I know Dr. Haynes shared with the Board of Ed members, and thank you for your questions. I think I've covered any of the questions that were submitted as of this afternoon, but if any board member or anybody from the public has any questions, I'd be happy to answer it. But before I do that, I do want to officially welcome the co-op preschool to the school district.
So for the Board of Education, this will be another co-op, photo op.
Yes.
Yeah, co-op. Ms. Thiemann, as you're doing that though, as I've watched this process unfold, as I've seen you spearheading this along with the membership of the co-op, it's such a wonderful relationship to see get going in our community. I wanted to thank you. I wanted to thank the members of the co-op. Thank you for all the dedication and hard work to bring this to fruition in what, a month and a half. Sincerely appreciated.
So that will go in our newly renovated lobby of the co-op, and we'll take a picture. But first, questions. Anybody have any questions?
I just have one question I want to
Sure.
clarify because I think you just maybe misspoke. You said that the 45 spots would be on lottery.
Yes.
Wouldn't it be 60 spots altogether?
So no, how the grant works is the students who were entered into the program for the 3- and 4-year-old program, the 15 that are currently there, they'll stay. However, any of those students, like we have a few that are going to be turning 5 and they'll enter our kindergarten, those spots will also be in the lottery. But any of like the current 3-year-olds or the young 4-year-olds, they will stay. So it's guaranteed to be 45 spots, but there could be a few additional only for the ones that are turning 5 and will enter our public kindergarten. So for our little 3-year-olds, absolutely. Like the little guy up on the screen before holding up his All About Me, he just turned 3. So he'll be there for 2 years. And which is great because the continuity is so important at this age. And the routine is what's going to make sure that these students are kindergarten ready for September.
So just to follow up on that question.
Yes.
The intention is that it's a 2-year program, or is the intention that it's a 1 year prior to being eligible for kindergarten?
Great question. So what happens is any of the 3-year-olds that came in, they will maintain for the 2 years, but we will have in that lottery, we'll absolutely be bringing in 4-year-olds as well. So those students will stay for the 1 year. Ideally, we would love to have more of our 3s coming in because then we're giving them the added benefit of longer instruction time before they come into our kindergarten program. But the way the PEA grant is written, it has to be maintained for 3s and 4s.
Got it. So the eligibility requirements to enter the lottery would be the 3 and 4-year-olds and residents in the town. That's verified.
Exactly. So they have to be verified residents. They have to be 3 or 4, and those are the only requirements. So as soon as they turn 3, they can register for that lottery and they could be part of it. And current 4-year-olds will be able to be part of that as well. So even if they're turning 5 by the time start, and if they're not eligible to start our kindergarten, they'll be part of that lottery as well. And then what we plan on doing is when we're doing the lottery, we'll make sure that we have a backup wait list in order of pulled names, because if somebody comes up not really a resident or they move, we need to have always the wait list as we do right now.
And you mentioned locations. Are locations still to be determined, or is there space at the co-op for the 3 additional classrooms?
So right now we're having conversations with First Presbyterian Church to see if we can expand into their back room and add on classes there. However, the co-op executive board is extremely eager to grow our partnership with the Rigefield Park School District. So what they're willing to do is even rent additional spaces under the co-op name and grow the spaces that way. So we have lots of options when it comes to that. We can rent additional space under the co-op, or we can utilize the space already at First Presbyterian Choice, which would be our first choice, because quite honestly, I'm sure you've all seen the co-op playground. It's absolutely amazing. So we want to be able to stay as our home base there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Diane, the 3rd and 4th graders, are they to, the 3-year-old and 4-year-old, are they together? I remember,
Yes,
you know,
so it's a
there
mixed
used to be
classroom.
a half day or whatever it was. That's
Right.
gone.
So the half-day program is gone. I think Mrs. Noonan especially was very upset on that last day of half-day when she thought, oh, my sanity is gone now, because you have to remember, a lot of the co-op students, as I'm sure you're well aware, came to school 2 days a week or 3 days a week. Not all of them came 5 days, and some of them came 2, 3 half days. So all of a sudden, these children were thrown into, no, you're 5 full days, no option. And that first week, it was a little bit of an adjustment. And all of a sudden there's nap time as part of it. And that was a huge adjustment. Some of these children have never experienced that before. And that's why I can't thank the staff of the co-op enough, because they did an amazing job helping the children make this transition. So the 3s and 4s are mixed together in one class, and that is part of the state regulation. They mandate that. So I know a lot of preschools in the area will separate the age groups, but that is not the recommendation of the state of New Jersey. And we are fully compliant with everything they have mandated.
Thank you. Great
Of
job,
course.
guys.
Thank you.
I have a quick question.
Yes, Dr. Martinez.
One of the nice things about the co-op was that the parents were very involved, and that was one of the most beautiful things about the co-op. And I'm wondering, as a parent, who stands at the door choked up, how much parent communication and contact are they going to have with the kids?
So that is one of the very best parts about the co-op, is this strong parent involvement. I'm amazed by the amount of energy they bring to the program. The parents are there every day at 2:30, and they don't pick up and go. They linger. They talk to the teachers. They want to be communicating with them. In addition, we have a teacher, a director, and a teaching assistant who posts every single day on their social media account that's just meant for the parents only. They have 2 separate ones. They have a public one, but then they have the one for the parents. They post every single day the activities the students took part in, the lessons they took part in, pictures of the children engaging, and I mean 40, 50 pictures every single day. In addition, they use that social media platform for any communication about class trip, about the Halloween parade, about future parties coming up, activities, show and tell. Everything is communicated through there. And then in addition, the teacher will email the parents that same information. So there's a very strong, high level of communication. There's also still a board of directors that's very active and involved in the co-op. Also, we had back to school night, and I had said to the director, I said, so what happens for the parents that don't come? How do we deliver that information? She said, there's no option. they signed the contract. They have to be at back to school night. And I thought, wow, that's incredible because that's strong parent involvement. You have to be there if you've signed on to be part of the co-op. And that is something that makes it such a valuable program and why the co-op was absolutely from the start one of our first choices.
Parents allowed to look through the window like we used to do?
Absolutely. And they stay on that playground after school too. Any other questions from the board? Mr. Fernandez, may I open it up to see if any parents, anybody from the
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Anybody from, yes, Mrs. Gottlieb. Okay, so at this time for this year, we do have extended family members that pick up, babysitters, parents do make arrangements. But for next year, we'd be looking for a program that can sustain from 2:30 until approximately 4 p.m. for parents that aren't able to do that. Yes, Ms. Ramba.
I have to just say that this is a wonderful program that we've been waiting for. But I really have to tell you that I can always tell at orientation, the children that come from the co-op easily, we'll talk to them, we'll give them their, assessments, and I'll say, where did you go to school? And then you can exactly tell where they come from. So I'm really excited because the children in this district really need that help coming into kindergarten.
Ms. Ramba, I cannot agree with you more. It truly is an outstanding program. And I am so happy that our partnership is with the co-op and has worked out. And I'm just very excited for what this is going to mean for our children entering kindergarten into our public schools in the future. Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, Mr. D'Elia.
I would just like to thank you for putting this into effect, along with a great amount of people here who worked hard behind the scenes. But a program like this, I recall when I first moved to Rigefield Park, it's long overdue, and I would kindly ask if you could, expand and do what we can do working closely with the state, because our youngsters definitely will only benefit from programs like this.
Thank you, Mr. D'Elia. Anyone else from the public? Okay. Mr. Fernandez, if there's no other questions, we're good.
Well, I can't thank you guys enough. If we can just take a photo before you
Absolutely,
guys get
we'd love to.
comfortable. Thank you. Continuing with the acting superintendent's report.
So once a year, when the state rolls out the results of the New Jersey Student Learning Standards, the school district is required to report those standards. And that's what this presentation is. I won't apologize ahead of time for this is going to be a little lengthy because there are so many people in our district who are committed to the improvement of our students' academic achievement and their pathways and opportunities for college and career. that I want to give them this service due for working so hard and so committed in such a way to help what you're about to see in this presentation. So I'll start by saying, being slightly new to the district over a couple of years now, I entered this presentation and looking at the assessments with a bit of trepidation, because I'd always heard from people in our faculty and the community that our district scores were low. I'm pleased to report that as compared to the 2019, which was the last time our students took this assessment 3 years ago, we are moving in a positive direction. We also recognize that there are opportunities for improvement. As our district administrative team reaffirmed to me, and as we put this presentation together, and I will say again, this is a team commitment that was created by the principals, supervisors, consultants, teachers, who all put this presentation together, that this is one test, the New Jersey SLA, on one date of a student performance. And as a village, as the board has committed multiple times, we value the whole child, our diversity, our resolutions for social justice, and our goals for social and emotional learning. Before jumping in to this presentation, that I remind myself from the board workshop this summer, that as a district, we never make a goal to improve a student data point. Instead, we make long-term strategic plans that support our students with lifelong goals for college and career opportunities, such as the PSA test and the test prep workshops that we're providing to our students this year. As you'll see where we are succeeding and where we have opportunities for improvements. And before I even move on into the presentation, the demonstration of a universal pre-K, recognizing that, as I said last year, our students are at a disadvantage compared to other districts with other students with 3 and 4-year-olds. And it's a wonderful commitment that was demonstrated here tonight in the board meeting, that we are opening up universal pre-K to help those students, our 3 and 4-year-old students. As Ms. Ramba said a few minutes ago, our kindergarten teachers, since I've been here, have struggled with the first couple of months of schools because they didn't know their students and they didn't know the skills they had, and they had to reassess them and figure out who they were. And having a student enter our district when they're a 3 or 4-year-old and then come to kindergarten gives them that pathway of knowledge and learning that we so desperately needed. So a little bit of background as far as the history. And this isn't just the NJSLA that I'll be reporting tonight. It's the Access for ELLs, the Dynamic Learning Map, DLMs, Advanced Placement, and also the NJGPA. Some context of this, I'm going to show 2 studies, which I shared with the board this summer. One is the IMAP, which is the Measures of Academic Progress. And we have to remember, as we look at these scores, to interpret them based on these students' experience 2 years of being out of the classroom for the pandemic. So the IMAP that measured 8 million elementary and middle school children found, and you can look at some of the dates here, predicted that the students in 3rd grade will take 5 years to catch up to pre-pandemic in reading. And when you look at 7th and 8th grade, and this is predictive a little bit of our 7th and 8th graders, it puts it into a national context of 8 million children, that 7th and 8th graders are 5 or more years behind. It will take that long to make up their progress to pre-pandemic areas. And in the area of math, it's very similar. 3rd through 6th grade will take a couple of years to catch up, but the 7th and 8th graders, and as they say, it's because of the social emotional learning that those students come into or were expecting in 7th and 8th grade. They didn't have the opportunities to be around their peers and develop those social emotional skills in addition to academic skills. The second study that I present comes from the National Assessment of Educational Progress, the NAEP. That's a performance of 9-year-olds and generally says the same thing, that of the 9-year-olds in math and scores and reading fell by the largest margin in 30 years. So entering the assessment that I'll be reporting on, the NJSLA. The NJSLA measures preparedness for college and careers in math and English language arts. It's a report on all students unless otherwise noted. It was last administered in 2018-19. Disaggregated subgroup data is suppressed. So if there are only 10 students in a group who took a portion of it or they're a class of it, those students, because people might be able to figure out who they are by identity if it's a group of 10 or smaller, the state says we follow the state guidelines and we suppress that data. So you'll see some of the charts in here that have less than 10 students which don't report results. The NJSLA aligns to math and ELA. The standards, which is really important because our teachers now are really involved in looking at standards and making sure they teach the state standards, and I'll come back to that. And it provides educators with information about looking at the standards and informing instructional practices moving forward. Yeah, I'm just gonna. Another reminder, and this is due to the commitment of this community and this Board of Education. You'll remember about 2 years ago, we started investing heavily in new programs that we recognized our students needed. They started with Link It, which is a predictive program, very much like the students go into NJSLA and they take a test. You know, part of measuring a student's progress is based on, does the student understand the English and the math? Or are they just not used to the testing environment and seeing two screens and answering questions throws them off? So Link It provides that ability for students to go in and get comfortable in a testing environment and look at a couple of screens and navigate back and forth and answer questions, but it's also predictive. So our students generally in grades 3 through 11 are taking Link It, what's called Form A, which they already took. Form B, they'll take around January, February, and they'll take Form C near the end of the year around the NJSLA. That looking at Link It data is really helping our teachers as they did in professional development today. If you walked in a classroom today, you'd see a lot of those teachers digging down, looking at Link It and other summative assessments, figuring out what they can do to help their students. So Link It was a huge commitment by the Board of Education, which I wanted to say again, as was Fontes and Pinnell. The board invested about $500,000 in Fontes and Pinnell 2 years ago. Sondays, which is a phonics program that supports our ELA, LLI, which is a reading proficiencies that supports small group instruction. So if a student is performing below grade level, they get pull-out basic skills instructions on LLI. Ames Web, which is really a dyslexia screener. Envisions Math is new, somewhat 2 years ago, but our teachers are still getting used to the Envisions Math and the new math standards and looking at standards and pacing guides. I'll get into that. And new this year, just a month ago, Elevate Science, because as you'll see, there's a recognition that we needed new resources and science materials. So the first chart I'll show, and I'm going to start at the top of this, the NJSLA breaks down expectations in 5 categories. Level 1 is did not meet. Level 2 is partially met. Level 3 is approaching, which is important. I'm going to talk about approaching a lot tonight. Level 4 is met, and level 5 is exceeded. So grade 3, you can see we are slightly below, and the first score here, this 39.3 that I'm looking at, is a combination of 4 and 5, because to basically pass a New Jersey NJSLA test, you have to at least meet expectations. So anybody who met expectations or exceeded expectations, those numbers were added together and they create proficiency. That's compared to the state level, which is also greater than or equal to 4, which is 42. So our third graders approaching, our grade 4, not as much. And as I said a minute ago, what's informative and what our teachers are looking at is approaching expectations. So you can see in grade 4, the majority of our students are here in the middle approaching expectations, and that's what our teachers are looking at. What can we do? We call these students the bubble students. If they're on the bubble and they're approaching expectations, what is it that we need to change? Is it a pacing guide because we're not getting to the material on the test in time? Is it reading for understanding more or fluency? But that's what they're looking at. They're looking at task analysis to figure out how they can move those students from approaching to meeting. Here's reason to celebrate though. Grade 5 after the pandemic, 61% of our students exceeded expectations, met or exceeded as compared to the state. In grade 6 also, there's a lot of reason to celebrate. There's still opportunities for improvement, but those students after the pandemic are doing great. Grade 8 is also a reason to celebrate. They're performing slightly above the state. And grade 9 too. I go back to grade 8 as a point of interest because as you saw from the national standards, the prediction there is that our 7th and 8th graders didn't perform as well as pre-pandemic. Our students really, they're performing well after the pandemic. Opportunities for growth, but performing well. Overall, by grade level then, we meet state standards English language arts. A couple of other things I want to talk about because As I said, the administrators meet to figure out, so why did our students perform as they did? And some of that can be attributed to the reading and writing workshop model that came into our district about 7 years ago. And it's taken several years to come into practice, but we're finally seeing the positive results of that. All the green represents growth since the 2019 assessment. So we went back and looked at scores from 2018, 2019 from that assessment 3 years ago, and the green areas shows student growth even since those, which is remarkable. Talked about the focusing on the bubble kids, what we could be doing better. And generally, you can see our district scores tend to skew higher in level 4 and 5. The discrepancy is grade 7, which follows the national 10. To break down a little bit then of what we're doing to help students achieve, to meet or exceed expectation. There's a recognition, first of all, by our teachers, we're moving in the right direction. And again, that's due to the good work of the administrators, the teachers, the BSI, the pullout, the resource room, the ELA consultant, and the Board of Education for purchasing additional resources, approving those teacher stipends, which will come up at the end of the board agenda tonight. Those stipends really help individual instruction with mentoring and tutoring and supporting kids with trusted adults. The board approved a 4 half-day professional development calendar last year, and that first day was today, October 18th, which, as I said, if you walked through classrooms, you saw teachers using those 2 hours to dig through data and talk about kids who were approaching expectations. So thank you for adopting that calendar last year. We have an ELA coach, and that coach works with our teachers monthly on topics such as, and I'm actually going to open this. I'm not going to make this available. The presentation will be available to the public, but I'm not going to make available some things like this. This is today's worksheet for all of the teachers in grades K through 6 who went to a workshop, and you can get a sense from the topics that they're focusing on. They were broken down into grade level groups, and they worked on data mining to look at standards and share with their peers, because there's such a sense of excitement and comfort when 3rd grade teachers across the district get together with each other, for example, and that happened all across the district today. The goal was an exit ticket for our teachers, where they focused on 3 skills, looking at task analysis that they could ask their students to improve on, and one that they're doing well on. I think it's always good to recognize the good achievements that they're doing. And they're going to remediate with another program called eSpark. Our teachers are also involved. The Board of Education at the beginning of this year approved the hiring of a science coach. So the science coach and the ELA coach, who's been here as a consultant for a number of years, are working incredibly well together, and they put out a joint calendar. So given our pandemic relief funds, we pull teachers out of classrooms and provide them with substitutes. And you can say, again, I'm not going to release this to the public, but just for demonstration, there's a calendar and monthly dates every month through June where these consultants are working with our teachers, looking at those approaching expectations so we can improve on those scores. And again, that's thanks to the board for committing to those extra resources for our teachers. Likewise, in 7th and 8th grade, the model of instruction, right? It's changed since I went to school. It's no longer the teacher in front of the class, because when that happens, if you have a sage on the stage, generally you have students who may fall through the cracks. And that's not what we're about. We're about finding every single student's academic level and achievement. So as you can see in our 7 through 12, we're looking at the same kind of instructional strategies we're using at the elementary school: small group instruction, guided reading, having students work together. The teachers in 7 through 12 are also analyzing data using Linkit, Start Strong, and NJSLA. They're using authoritative resources for reading, writing, and research skills. And if that makes you wonder what that is, our students in 7th and 8th grade, getting involved in social media. There are there's a lot of misinformation out there. And so it's using good resources, not Googling everything, but using resources such as EBSCO or ProQuest or Facts on File or things that can be verified to give our students questions that they can answer and think about and problem solve. Providing more PD. and collaborating with Little Ferry. We had 2 or 3 collaborations with Little Ferry teachers because the more we can collaborate, because our kids are the same kids in grades 9 through 12, the more we collaborate, just like having a universal pre-K, the better we are with all of our kids succeeding in 9 through 12. So we collaborated today with the comprehensive health and phys ed and social studies. And as the board knows, we updated a lot of the novels that our students are using due to the social justice resolution that was passed. Moving on to math. So there are some successes in math. You can see in grade 3, we're meeting the state average. In grade 6, we're surpassing the state average. In grades 4 and 5, and it's important to remember, these students never took a test for 3 years. So the first time our 3rd, 4th, and 5th graders were on a computer taking a test was this test in the spring. And some of that shows. Grade 7 is the grade that I wanted to, grade 7 and 8 are the grades that I want to focus on a second, because there is a story there. When I talk about partially meeting expectations, you can see, for example, grade 4, that's why we have our teachers working in groups, looking at what's the task analysis that our students need to look at to achieve better. An example today, when I talked to a teacher in one of those workshops, was prior to this year, they never had a pacing guide. So if you have a 4th grade teacher teaching math and they don't get to 20% of the math content, and that 20% is on the test as standards, then the students right away don't know the answers for 20% of the test. The pacing guides were revised, and our teachers are using new pacing guides this year that cover the majority of the high stakes standards on the test. So that's a huge change that we implemented this year. The anomaly here is grade 8, and I'll use a little math to explain this. If you have about 100 students in grade 8, and about 5 of them, which is 5%, score level 4, but nobody here, then you only get 5% of the students meeting or exceeding expectations, where the state level, and you can see across the state, 8th graders did not perform well after the pandemic. But we had such a small group that didn't perform well that it skewed all the standards. If you take that one number out of our all grade score, you can see our score going up dramatically across all grades, but that is an area of focus. This happens for a couple of reasons, because we do take students and put them into, based on their results of 6th grade, they go into track either 7th or 8th grade math, or the students who perform better on an assessment, they go into algebra. So looking at some of those results, one of the things we did this summer was, and the board supported this, spent a good amount of money to support our algebra teachers in aligning common assessments, because not all of our teachers were giving the same test at the same time, or even the same test. So we now have aligned common assessments through algebra. All of our students are getting the same curriculum through the same pacing guide and having to achieve on the same common assessment. We intend to do the same thing for 7th and 8th grade next year in the summer, to provide time for those teachers to sit down and provide common assessments, and to make sure that the pacing guides are aligned to the standards that are on this test. So there's some work that we have to do, and recognizing that. And there's the first one on case 6, revising the pacing guides to ensure our teachers meet all of the standards, attending monthly workshops, which I talked about. We're taking an approach, because we have pandemic relief funds, to allow our teachers to attend support our teachers in attending out of district workshops. So there's a guru who I know a couple of the members of the board are used to. Her name's Nancy Schultz at Conquer Math. And we've committed to a contract to send all of our kindergarten through 2 teachers throughout this year to those out of district workshops, because she has an amazing way of approaching mathematics and thinking about mathematics that help our teachers. The goal is next year, our 3 through 6th grade teachers would go to those workshops. Again, as you'll see tonight, we're providing online homework help, after school support, which starts after the board approves this tonight, routine data mining, deploying better math manipulatives. Because we have the new math consultant or the math coach in place, she's ensuring all teachers have the same math manipulatives and are getting the same modeling to use them in the classroom. And applying brain-based research to determine most effective ways to engage our students. In 7 through 12, and it's again applying a little bit of the research that serves us well in our English language arts classroom, and that is small group instruction where students in reading engage in text and the teacher teaches them through guided reading. The same thing can be said in math. Small groups of students working through guided solvent problems. My favorite example here is a lot of its 7th and 8th grade students and the high school students, you might want to respond to this. It's easy for a student to go into a math classroom, struggle a little bit and then say, can you just give me the answer? Can you give me a little bit help so I can get the answer? As opposed to when students are in small groups and challenged and the teacher takes more of an approach of, I'll guide you, but I need you to problem solve this and have some productive struggle. That's really the kind of thinking that goes into these math tests nowadays. So our 7th through 12th grade teachers recognize that there's students that missed foundational math skills, concrete skills, skills without manipulatives at home, which helps our students learn math. And so what they're doing is starting every period with a do now and an activity that mimics what's on a test question on the New Jersey Student Learning Standard. So that the students come into classroom, they get engaged with a question already that helps them feel more comfortable with New Jersey Student Learning Standards. Goes back to Algebra 1. Our teachers sat and did Algebra 1 assessments this summer. Talked about using data. You'll see tonight on the approvals that we're hiring teachers to provide bi-monthly math parents nights to help our parents get involved, to navigate the online textbooks, explore resources, and provide mini tutoring. We're providing using those 4 half days for professional development, again, to do data mining, implementing small group department PD, which is similar to the elementary schedule that you saw through our 7 through 12, and having our teachers write SGOs that are aligned to the state standards. I think there's one other, before I move on to science, one other approach that I wanted to mention, which I found fascinating. It's something that the new math coach educated me in, that our students learn math, and it goes back to, this picture really. Our students learn math and progress into math concepts really by concrete. And you can imagine our kindergartens through 3rd graders, even through 6th graders, using math manipulatives like this to do spaces and values and fractions. Or when you think about a pizza and looking at an eighth, what does that mean? Like a slice. But they use those manipulatives, moving them to pictorial and describing through pictures. Well, if I have 8 trees, what's one of 8 trees look like? Or if I have a pizza, what does 1/8 of a slice look like? So pictorial representations. And then finally moving into the abstract. What does that look like as a percentage or as a fraction? And some of our students missed the concrete. And so now what we're having to do is help them get the concrete to move it into the pictorial and into the abstract. So those are some of the instructional strategies that we're looking at as we move into math. In science, so grade 5, we're doing well in, but there's obviously some opportunities for improvement, and that goes back to there are 4 levels, by the way, in science, and there are only 3 tests in science. It's grade 5, grade 8, and grade 11 in the district. And we recognize that in grade 8, there's opportunities for improvement because most of those students are near proficiency. They're not moving into proficient or advanced proficient. Likewise with grade 11, they're the same. In the elementary level, K through 6, we hired a consultant, Jody Turner, who's in my mind knocking out of the park. She works with small groups of teachers. She works with manipulatives. And recently, as I think it was Berlinda or Miss, I'm trying to remember who on program and instruction said, we're doing science. We're adopting a new science program, Berlinda. So Jody Turner is working with teachers. She's already assembled the committee that's going to look at pilot programs and science programs, because the programs we have don't allow the students or don't give the teachers the resources for those students to have hands-on concrete experiences with science, to do productive struggle, to go through a process of what's called claim evidence reasoning, to look at something and to think this is why it is, to produce evidence for it and then reason it out and explain why that is true, like a hot air balloon, why it rises compared to the rest of the atmosphere. So she's working with teachers to go through claim evidence reasoning and helping that committee to find new resources. I expect to present the Board of Education in the springtime then with proposition to buy new science resources K-6 with better manipulatives for our teachers. So the state requires that we go ahead and I also prepare and present broken out by 3 different subgroups. And that's race, gender, and subgroup by program. We did glance through this data, but I will be honest, if you look over it just very quickly, and I'm going to skip through the next 9 slides, they will be available online. I think what it supports is that we have a very diverse population because the majority of the groups that you see, the majority of them perform according to the averages that preceded them, which isn't a surprise. I'll freely share this information to the public. It will be available on the website. And at this time, though, as an administrative team, since we have not had the opportunity to review these charts and better plan outcomes based on specific subgroups of data, I'm going to go through these pretty quickly. So broken out by race, this is ELA. Broken out by race, this is mathematics. Broken out by race, this is science. The next subgroup, and you can see this is pretty equal here as you look at male versus female in English language arts. Pretty equal also mathematics. And male, female for science, which backs up what I presented for all grades earlier. Broken out by achievement level. So this breaks out the groups of free and reduced lunch, Section 504 students, ELL students, special ed students, and general education students. And that's true for ELA, mathematics, and science. Moving on to the next assessment is access for ELLs. This is a program where students who do not speak English are English language learners or emerging bilingual learners or multilingual learners are led through instruction that eventually leads them back into the English classroom. This is an assessment that measures students on progress from a scale of 1 to 6 across 4 language domains. And students need to achieve a score of 4.5 to exit out of the ELL program into general education. And these are our results. I'd say it takes a number of years for students to be in an ELL program to learn orally to speak the language, and it takes more years for the students to feel comfortable in an academic setting performing reading and writing with the language. So you can see grades K through 3, that was fewer than 10 students, so the reports aren't reported out, but you can see in 4 and 5, more than 50% of our, it's actually 60% of our students passed out of the ELL due to language proficiency, which is wonderful. It is expanding, which is if our students earn a 4.5, could progress out of the program here. And these numbers aren't broken out quite as much. But what the numbers do tell you is we do have students who come in to our junior, senior high school not speaking English from other countries. We recently had a Ukrainian student come to our district. And so that does take a number of years. It's not going to show immediate results where those students go directly into one of our classrooms. Some of the remediation, though, we are continuing the ESL program, advisory committee, training 16 teachers. So part of the pandemic funds we are able to use allow all of our teachers to engage in sheltered English instruction, to have better instructional practices to teach our Ls, continuing with 25 more teachers for that kind of sheltered English language instruction, continuing to implement both extended day and summer ESL programs. We put a lot of time into that, and you'll see again on the board agenda tonight under new business, many teachers will be approved for that. This is something that's pretty exciting to me. We will be purchasing 40 Waverly Ambassador Labs. Those are earpieces that fit over your ear, connect to your phone, and provide immediate translation services. So I've always been of a mind that sometimes our ELLs come to our district and we don't challenge them as much as they should, even though they're really gifted at math because they don't speak English. Having a translation piece on the ear just takes care of all that. So our Ls can participate in other language programs at an academic rigor level that they should be at. Not that they're not, but this allows them to have a wider access to a wider opportunity of classes. Next assessment, dynamic learning maps. This is for students who they can't access the state test due to learning needs. So they don't do an NJSLA, for example. And it's a different type of test. Normally it's done on an iPad and it has teacher involvement. It's not the kind of test that you'd expect from an NJSLS. The DLM also, though, does test special needs students on math, English language arts, and science. And these are some pretty phenomenal results that are recorded. Again, many of these classes were fewer than 10, so the results get suppressed. But in the results that we do see, English language arts, which is following the trend of our general education population, 73%, mathematics, really well at 82%, and science, which is following a trend in our district. Action plans with our DLM, our special needs students, track student growth from year to year, and like our other teachers, use the data to direct individual instruction, provide professional development on multisensory science instruction, and continue to incorporate STEAM and PBL opportunities. AP exams. So AP is not required to be reported out. Yeah, I'm sorry, that's a little out of order. I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to go on to NJGPA for a second. The NJGPA was an 11th grade test that the state rolled out last year. All of our 11th graders had to take it with the expectation that it would be used as a graduation pathway. I'll go ahead and skip through this to say the state has since said, oops, not a graduation pathway. Students in the year 2023 do not need to have an assessment for a graduation pathway, which is certainly a double-edged sword. But as I'm required to report these assessments out, our students do perform around the state average. They did, our 11th graders, as far as the ELA field test, and they perform below the state average. That's how these numbers come out. Not yet graduation ready for math. So I want to go back 2 slides. For advanced placement, is a program created by the College Board to offer college level curricula and exams at high school students. I think most people in this room know what AP course is. I think there's an opportunity, as I said earlier, to celebrate the gifts and talents of our students who are performing very well on advanced placement assessments too, such as a senior student that we have, Yana Lana, who earned a perfect score on our AP drawing portfolio. And some of these others where I don't have the numbers in here, but our students perform extremely well in fine arts, in English language arts, in AP sciences, in AP social studies, in calculus and Spanish language. Those are all reasons to celebrate our students in finding the passions that they want to for careers in college lifelong learning. Finally, as I've said numerous times, there are a number of programs we're rolling out. We're approving these teachers from now through February to roll out accelerated learning, adult ESL classes, after school mentoring, social emotional learning programs, all those things that I mentioned earlier that we recognize our students could benefit from either mentoring or tutoring or enrichment or homework helpline. That's what we'll be rolling out tonight and putting in front of the board for approval. Thank you for the time for the superintendent report. That concludes the assessment report. I would say, because that was a long report, if there are questions, that's why I put up the tiny URL in front of me.
Thank you for your report, Dr. Haynes. And moving on to
sorry, that was the assessment report. 2 other things on the superintendent report. My apologies. One, we are required every 6 months to report out on what's called the SSDS report, the Anti-Bullying Bill of Rights. I presented that to the Board of Education, and there have been a couple of comments that they would like more of a legend and explanation on that, which I will prepare, revise, and present back to the board for the SSDS report. And finally, President Fernandez, I believe, has a walk-in resolution that you would like to read to our Board of Education.
Thank you so much. So I'd like to walk in resolution proclamation, whereas the National Association of Elementary School Principals and National Association of Secondary School Principals have declared the month of October 2022 as National Principals Month. Whereas the school leaders are expected to be the educational visionaries, instructional leaders, assessment experts, disciplinary, community builders, public relations experts, budget experts, facility managers, special programs administrators, and guardians of various legal, contractual, and policy mandates and initiatives, as well as being entrusted with our young people, are the most valuable resources. And whereas principals set the academic tone for our schools and work collaboratively with teachers to develop and maintain high curriculum standards, develop mission statements, and set performance goals and objectives. Whereas the vision, dedication, and determination of the principals provide the mobilizing force behind any school reform effort, and whereas the celebration of the National Principals Month would honor our elementary and high school principals and recognizing the importance of school leadership in ensuring that every child has access to high quality education. Now thereafter be resolved that our Board of Education recognizes the month of October 2022 as National Principals Month, and in honoring the contribution of the school principals in our elementary and secondary schools in our district by supporting the goals and ideas of National Principal Month. So I'd like to take this moment to personally thank Mr. Cada, Mrs. Hernandez, Ms. Cavins, Dr. Ferrero, and not to leave out our vice principals as well. At this time, I'd like to move on to our state monitors report.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, I've been appointed by the commissioner to monitor the district. And just to make it, for clarity's sake, I'm not here to run the district. However, I will insist on transparency, following the state regulations, supporting administration, ensuring that the rights of our employees is confirmed. I will be certifying all financial transactions. And also my personal philosophy is RP has gone through a lot of headaches in the past, but I'm not here to look back and place blame, because I found in my experience it's not the way to improve a district quickly. I will be looking forward to streamlining and ensuring that things are done correctly. So ends my report.
Thank you, Mr. Egan. Before I move on to citizens' comments on agenda items, I'd like to carve out the next 15 minutes for off-agenda items related to some of our students that are here. And rather than get up to the podium as fast as they can and get home at a decent hour. So I'd like to dedicate the next 15 minutes to our students that are here who want to voice their concerns. So just as a rule of thumb, I give you guys the next 15 minutes, just state your name and your address, and we'll go from there. Hey, good evening. How are you?
Hello, how are you? Good evening, Rigefield Park School Board members. My name is Juliana Lara, and I'm a sophomore here at the high school. I'm part of the girls varsity soccer team, and I'm here to speak on behalf of both the girls and the boys soccer team to let you know that the conditions of our field are unacceptable and dangerous. I'm personally one of many athletes who have been injured, including opposing players, because of the field that we use for both practices and games. I'm not sure if you have ever stepped on the field, but if you haven't, let me describe to you the conditions. First of all, the field is not even designed for soccer. There are two baseball fields on opposite corners, which in turn makes it a difficult part of the soccer field made of sand. And I hope that you know that soccer is meant to be played on sand. meant to be planted on sand, sorry. Furthermore, the portion of the field that is made up of grass is unleveled, filled with dents, and has hollow spots. I'm upset and angry with the school board and the athletic department for how they have treated my sport and the conditions that they have allowed my teammates and I to play on. I know that this is not the treatment that other sports like football receive, but I'm not asking for equal treatment. I'm simply asking for acceptable conditions. I urge you to take action and make a change for us as part of the school and community. I would like to know where I can find the breakdown of the 2020 to 2021 budget on the school. School-sponsored athletic instruction was allocated to $642,847, and I would love to know where this money was spent.
First of all, I'm thrilled that you guys are here representing the student body. I'm always thrilled that you come to represent and
Thank you.
advocate for yourselves, as you should. So very supportive. Thank you.
Thank you.
I don't have an answer to your question, which is very reasonable, but I can look at an answer. And I think more than that, I would appreciate meeting with you and the town and our athletics department so we can all sit down and talk about a better path forward that gives you solutions to what you need. Because I also, it's important to me that you have good playing fields to play on also. I think us meeting together is very important.
And where would you think this could be possible?
Well, I'm the superintendent. You know where to find me. Can I suggest you go visit Mrs. Gibbons tomorrow
Okay.
and set up a time for her to meet with us? And I'd like to bring in the town too, because as you know, we have to keep that relationship working because it's the town who maintains the fields. So it will be good to have town representation at this meeting also.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Excuse me, I have a question about that. To the board, to the superintendent. You had the students saying that possibly the field is dangerous, that students are getting hurt, or possibly?
It is. The fields are pretty messed up. There's holes, and it's basically just putting in danger our athletes. I sprained my ankle and I was basically out the entire season. I wasn't even able to play one entire game because of my injury. And other students from other teams have also gotten hurt and they're complaining about the field. So I'm sure that if you go take a look that you'll see that there's not a good field for us to play on.
Well, I'm very disturbed about that. And I will talk to the superintendent and representatives of the boards very soon, because my concern is, and this should be everybody's concern, if the field is not safe, you can't use the field.
Yes, I agree.
Because we can't allow situations to go on where somebody can get hurt. So I don't know the answer to it right this second.
All right.
But something has to be done with it. And I've been informed that with the field is actually not our field. It belongs to the town. So my question is, and I'll leave it to the superintendent and the board, if and it's nice to have meetings, but if the field is not safe, how can we use it? So I'll continue this with the superintendent and the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Some of my other teammates would like to speak for a second.
Hey, good evening. How are you?
I'm good. How are you? I lost my voice, so it's my fault. I'm a little bit quiet. But my name is Maya Kraft. I live at 140 Grand Avenue. I'm a senior here at RP. And with that being said, Scarlet Pride is extremely important to me, and it's greatly improved my time at this school. However, though, it's close to impossible to have any sense of pride in ourselves as like a soccer program in general when our facilities are in such poor condition. So my question is, if it cannot be possible if it cannot be made possible to fix the divots in our field, is it possible to relocate the soccer teams to nicer fields that are close by? I know we played previously at the Overpeck Park field, and if that might be a money issue, but we're willing to fundraise or like do anything to just be able to have like a nicer field that we could take pride in. Another option we have is the Little Ferry turf field. I'm not sure like what the relationship with that is, but we're willing to do whatever possible to like move to a nicer field that we can be proud of to like call our own. Because Hobart Field is not something that we're proud to call ours, and none of the families are. Opposing teams, when they come, they complain. We just had a game there before our senior night. The Lodi girls were appalled to see like the sand on our field and the mud and the holes, and multiple girls fell. I almost didn't get to play. I rolled my ankle in a hole before the game. So I was just wondering, along with my teammates and the boys team, how can we like relocate to a different field? That's it.
That's great. Um, so I will say that I walked the fields, took pictures of the fields, met with Mrs. Porter Real, who's in charge of the town to do that, and talked about other options. At that time, I was informed that the soccer team wouldn't want to use Overpeck or other things, and that's not what I'm hearing here. So because I think it's important to sit down and have this conversation, that's why we need to sit and have a conversation and invite Mr. Egan in on it too. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Hey, good evening.
Good evening, guys. I'm Patrick Santiago, and I live at 154th Street. I'm a sophomore here at RPHS. I'm an honors student, and I'm the captain of the boys varsity soccer team, and I'm the leading goal scorer for our team. I've been asked to represent the boys and girls soccer program tonight. To begin with, our current home field is on Hobart Street, and it is half sand and half grass. It is in poor condition, and it is not meant for soccer. We've been mocked by opposing teams for the safety and quality of our field, not only during games, but on social media. We have had other teams' parents complain about the lack of seating and about the safety concerns for our soccer games. And quite frankly, it's embarrassing. So why was the soccer team moved from the field that we used last year that is closest to the high school and moved 3 fields down to what is in essence a baseball field? And why did the football program receive our field from last year as a practice field on top of their dedicated football field? So why do they took our field from last year to practice on it so they don't ruin their field for games? So why is that the case? And my parents checked with both the athletic director and the board of commissioners, and they weren't met with a clear answer when they asked. So I'm respectfully asking you guys to help me and my teammates and the girls soccer team to understand the decision making.
Again, first of all, thank you. I'm happy that Mr. Egan is entering into this conversation to help find a solution for us and the town.
Thank you for your time,
Hey,
everyone.
thank you guys for your time and your comments. Thank you again.
Dr. Haynes. Dr. Haynes,
Yes.
can we find out how many games there are left, and if and maybe if you could send that to me, and maybe we could see if Little Ferry can help out, since we are both part of the same school district here at the high school, and if we can put in a word in with the Little Ferry town and see about maybe relocating those games. I can't promise anything, but see if we could do something on our end to maybe relocate them over to the other field in Little Ferry. At least we can ask, and maybe end the season on another field and try to help out these students on a more safe and field and a better experience for the rest of the year. Can see how many games are left and see if we can help out.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, at this time, I'd like to open up the floor for citizens' comments on agenda items, please. Excuse me, miss.
I signed up.
No problem. I'll let the board secretary call your name, please.
Okay, Leslie Gottlieb, 464A Liberty Street, apartment. Leslie Gottlieb, 464A Liberty Street, apartment 102, Little Ferry, New Jersey. First of all, I want to commend the soccer teams for stepping forward and taking the initiative about their field. And I also want to thank my fellow board member, Nick, for possibly offering the use of the Little Ferry field. Okay. Then a couple of questions. I noticed that even at the high school level, the math scores were not good. Geometry in particular did not look good, and nor did the math, even though they're throwing out the test, the graduation test for math did not look good. And, you know, I'm concerned at what they're working on with the higher level math, especially like geometry. And that's my question.
So actually, the geometry scores, if you look at, and again, it will be available online, the students did very well on. I'd say the specific questions, because I'd rather get together with my leadership team who did an excellent job in this. I'd rather have the time to form good answers with the team and respond back to you. That's why I put this out there.
Okay, thanks.
J. Sean Sadler. Janet Malloy. Good evening, miss. How are you?
Okay, Janet Malul, 163 East Grand. What is on the agenda? It's, I can't figure out how this works now, but it's 10.05. It's school-sponsored publications being abolished. What does that mean? Are these the things like Scarlet Quill? Or is this, years ago, there used to be a newsletter that used to come home that spoke about all the great things that were going on down here, which I haven't seen in a long time. And I don't know whether that's what's being abolished.
Ms. Malloy, you mean 10.05 policies and regulations?
Yeah.
Okay, that's our second reading of
Yes.
those policies.
Oh, okay, so that's not being enacted today.
No, ma'am.
Okay,
No,
then I will
ma'am.
hold on that.
Thank you.
Okay, the presentation about the grades, the scores, and the programs, I'm just a little puzzled, I guess. As you know, it's the math that I normally can relate to better than any of the others. You're claiming that third graders will take 3 to 5 years to catch up. Fourth graders, 3 to 5 years. Fifth grade is 3 to 5 years, but sixth graders miraculously 1 to 2. If a sixth grader catches up in 1 to 2 years, then why does it take a seventh grader 5 years to catch up? I don't understand that concept. It doesn't seem logical to me. Okay. And then if you go across to the scores, and maybe I'm misreading this, I was just looking at those exit scores compare, you know, like where we were compared to the state. Okay, so sixth graders, fifth graders were basically just about on grade level. So it doesn't seem real that our kids are going to take 3 to 5 years to catch up if they're just about equal with the rest of the state. If you look at sixth graders, they're actually above the state average. So that's a great thing. And then seventh graders are dipping, but they're not dipping hugely, but they're dipping enough that it stands out. And I won't look at the eighth because I understood totally what you were saying about the kind of the skewing of statistics is the way I would talk about it. So I just found that kind of puzzling that the seventh graders are standing out. Now, maybe they're standing out for multiple reasons. Maybe the curriculum has changed drastically compared to what they're doing in sixth grade. Seventh grade, we've always found that there's a harder adjustment. You're now bringing 3 schools in to one grouping can affect it. So there's a lot to look at. You talked about pacing guides. And you talked about you showed pictures of those kind of small group instruction. To me, they are almost, I'm going to say they one versus the other. Because what do you do when their small group instruction is taking 5 days to be proficient in a topic, but your pacing guide says 3 days? Are you going to go according to the 3 days for the pacing guide, or the true understanding that they're taking 5 days to get it, and let them take the 5 days to get it so that they get to the next topic and it makes sense? So that's just from personal experience. I've found I'd rather see them actually understand the topic than having to stay with a pacing guide, because sometimes that's not reality for the kids you have. And the last thing is teachers going to workshops, they go once a month. If I heard that correctly?
The K through 2 teachers roughly go once a month to Conquer Math, yes.
Okay, so this is just in K to 2 right now? Or is it?
The out of district, correct.
Okay, and I thought there was something about a workshop going on for the like 7, 8 teachers that are in the upper grades?
But let me come back and answer. In-district workshops are generally once a month. They're not always workshops. It's those coaches now coming into the classroom and modeling lessons with teachers. So it's more once a month professional development with teachers.
Okay, so then the kids are not in a classroom with a sub?
Not for, so the monthly chart I showed of both our ELA consultant and our the newly hired math consultant, they're working with teachers, co-teaching, modeling, working in the classrooms, giving feedback and guidance with students.
Okay. Okay. I guess that's it for now. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments, Miss.
President Fernandez, I neglected to read my statement. So I just want to remind the public that we do have 5 minutes. Time is not transferable, and that we are answering as many questions as we can that are appropriate, but we may be sitting on some questions that need more research. That's my summary.
Thank you. Susan DeSantis. Good evening.
Susan DeSantis, 15 Homestead Place. Resolution 1314, extra compensation. And could you tell us a little about the qualifications of the acting busing coordinator to alleviate some of the fears of the parents after what's been going on in the busing department?
I'm sorry, Ms. DeSantis, I don't see that in the program. I will say we don't comment about personnel without having riced an individual. So I'm not going to.
I'm asking for qualifications. I'm not asking for personnel. It's qualifications.
Again, if you go ahead and ask your question like the other people in the transportation where I showed that page is available, I'll be happy to answer your question and provide it to you.
Mr.
But use
Haynes,
this.
you know, these pages that you put up for questions that you don't answer the questions, or you cherry pick what you want to answer.
Mr. Santis, this is an
Can't you
off
just
agenda
say what
item.
his qualifications are to ease
Mr.
the
Santis?
fears of the parents?
Mr. Santis, this is not an on agenda item.
Actually, the busing coordinator, the acting busing coordinator is. I said 13-14.
Thank you.
So, Ms. DeSantis, I'll say again, every question that came in through the transportation survey was answered and put back on the website. And I'd be happy to take the time and research the question and the answer for you and put it on the website.
Dr. Haynes, could you please answer the question on what his qualifications are and what is being done? You have a lot of very upset parents in this community, and they want to know that things are being addressed.
Mrs. DeSantis, I am one of those parents that was and continue to be very, very upset.
I'm sure you are.
And sitting up here, my answers, I'm sorry, my questions have been answered. And I personally think that the district is moving forward to try to rectify the situation. I am one of those parents and we're handling.
Well, if you can answer the community and the parents here that things are being taken care of and coming along, and what progress has been made, that these parents feel that they can safely put their children on these buses.
I put 2 of my children on those buses.
I understand that. Do you feel comfortable with that? Do you feel that enough has been taken care of?
I put my children on those buses. If I didn't, I would not put them on those buses.
Well, I guess that's the best we're going to get, right?
No, I will, Mrs. Stanis, I will go ahead if I have the ability to share this again. Because we put out and we're proactive with a great deal of communication. I know that I don't think you have a child in our district right now. So the parents of the members of our community know that I put out a memo. It's easily found when you go to our website and go to district, where I put all of the superintendent communication. If you click on acting superintendent of schools, you'll find that I put out a district transportation memo to all the families in our community, detailing some of the questions you asked, that we were proactive and put up a transportation website that if you click on that, you'll get more information to some of your answers. It names the new acting bus coordinator. It gives you contact information to the coordinator, gives you a transportation survey. So I'd ask that you please look at those resources. And then if you still have questions, use this address to submit a question that we can answer, like I've answered all of the other questions on the website.
Can I just comment, as a parent who also puts a child on the buses and who's concerned about teachers and coaches and bus aides, I really want to give credit to Ms. Grapstein and Nancy, I can never pronounce your name, but that office has done a great job of going down the list of every deficiency that was found in that report and more, and has gone point by point by point to the best of what I've witnessed, and has addressed many issues. And I do think that we're in good hands. Far from perfect, because like many things in this district that were left to rot for a long time, it takes a long time to fix them. But I assure you, from where I'm sitting as a parent on the board, I'm very satisfied with the response to those deficiencies from the front office.
I understand what you're
agree, and
saying,
I
Ricardo.
want to publicly thank Mrs. Grapstein. Thank you.
I've also spoken to Mrs. Grapstein, and I know that she's gotten right on it, but I also feel that this is the place where the public listens and sees what's being said. There are grandparents out there. There are child care people that really care about, the children on our buses. And I feel this is the place and the venue to tell them what has been done and what has been accomplished to alleviate their fears. I understand yours are, and I understand yours are, but not everybody listening knows that. And this would be the place to do it. Okay, thank you.
Jennifer Schmidt.
Jennifer Schmidt, 138 Fifth Street.
Good evening.
Good evening. First, happy Principals Month to Dr. Ferraro, because he's an excellent principal. I'm actually on agenda. I don't know yeah, he's the best. Okay. It's on agenda. I'm not sure the number. I don't understand the new agenda.
We love all of our principals. I just have to say
Yes,
all
we
of
do,
our
but
principals.
I especially love Dr. Ferraro. I wanted to wish Miss Michelle Lynn, best of luck with her future endeavors, and say thank you to her for her many years working in the district with our children. She's a longtime friend, family friend, and she was also my daughter's aide, and she's always went above and beyond in her duties. So thank you, Michelle Lynn. You will certainly be missed. I wish she was here, but she knows I thank her. I think everyone should. Secondly, okay, this is not probably on agenda. I just have a quick question. Like, who coaches soccer because hearing those children speak of the soccer fields and the poor conditions, I would hope that the coaches, especially if there's multiple injuries on the soccer field, I would hope that the coaches would raise those concerns as well. Wondering if they had, because that should certainly be addressed if there's multiple injuries due to the conditions of the soccer field. And I think it should be a relatively easy fix, at least to level the soccer field. I know that's off agenda. I'm going to wait till off agenda for most of my busing comments, as I understand that's not on agenda, but just, we are not going to accept no answers when we sit here and ask questions, off agenda or on agenda. I'm not going to accept going to the website to see if my questions have been answered. I already asked a question about busing. I haven't had an opportunity to check the website to see if that question has been answered. But I think some of these questions are simply answered. So no, I'm not going to go check a website. That's it. Thank you.
Ed DeSantis?
President Fernandez, our student representative wanted to answer one of the questions that.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
So I wanted to say that the boys soccer coach is Brian Haynes, and assistant coach Mate Pavin, and the girls coach is Ryan Fells and Catherine Faulkner.
Could I ask you how long you guys have been playing on Hobart Field?
So we played this year practice and games, but we usually do have some games there, like all 4 years that I've been playing soccer.
You guys don't use McEwen?
We're not allowed to use that one.
Can I just ask, I know that you guys have played over at the county field. Did you have any games this year at the county field, Overpeck?
No field, no.
Sorry about that.
Hello, Ed DeSantis, 15 Homestead Place. I have a couple of things I want to say before I have a single question, really. First of all, welcome, Mr. Egan. Very many of us have a great affection for Mr. Demikoff and all he's done for the district. We welcome you and we wish you success, and we have faith in you that you will help turn the district around. Congratulations to the soccer team for being courageous enough to come forward with your complaints and make them known. I think that's important. Shows the kind of citizens you'll be in the future. I want to thank Diane. Also want to mention Diane Thiemann. I think she's got, no, she's there. That although she's in a position that she didn't voluntarily go to, as usual, she's put 100% into the position and managed to get this program off the ground in an incredibly short amount of time. Thank you, Diane. And lastly, for Dr. Martinez, straightening out the policies of how you're communicating it to us, the transparency of board members being online, being present and visual, explaining what you meant by the a quorum. I wish questions could be answered like that, and both you and Ms. Rodriguez. I think that your input again in answering what was a very simple question: is the person qualified? It took more time to beat around the answer than it did just to say yes or no. So the only question I have is rescinding an offer of employment. I don't want the person's name. I just would like to know the position that was rescinded. Is it one of our teachers? Is it a department?
Teacher assistant.
A teacher assistant. So there, I guess then we'll be replacing them?
We post for teachers assistant constantly, yes.
Okay, that was the last question. Thank you for your time.
John R.
Good evening, gentlemen and ladies. I'd like to start by following up with Ms. Thiemann. her ability to get everybody working together and make it a success is a great thing for the pre-K. It is just another example of how our students have lost such a talented person. And it's exactly why so many people were down here supporting and demanding that she stay in our school system. So that's a two-sided coin. And the only losers are the students. Following up on your memo, Dr. Haynes, about the new website that you designed, I see you had it ready just in time to dodge any questions tonight, which goes back to our state monitor's statement about transparency, which we have never had from Dr. Haynes. He has a website for everything, okay? He needs to spend less time designing websites and more time on our students and what the taxpayers have to say. He refuses to answer any questions for us. Instead, he refers them to a website. With the recent new sex education curriculum, Dr. Haynes refused to answer any questions and referred people to the website. There were a total of 12 parents who asked questions. So our board made a decision as far as the new sex ed curriculum based on the input of 12 parents, rather than answering questions from very concerned parents who are here. You have a responsibility as the superintendent of school to answer the taxpayers of Rigefield Park. Since we do not hire you, but we do pay you. We do pay you. And you lack transparency as far as anything that is going on is destroying not only our board, but is now getting into the school level. Mr. Sansa's question isn't about transportation moving forward, which was answered. Do you expect the taxpayers of Rigefield Park to accept 10 years of rot in transportation? Hundreds of thousands of dollars of taxpayers' money wasted. We're just going to pretend none of that happens. You see, Doctor, everybody makes mistakes, but we must learn by them. Have you looked into the situation? Have you found why it happened? Is there accountability anywhere? Or we're just going to forget about it? Of course you won't answer that question. And I'd like our state monitor to know that. It is a major problem in this town. Thank you.
Yep. Just wanted to go ahead and add that our board, as we rolled out the comprehensive health and physical education standards, our board wanted to make sure that we took in a lot of public comment. So we had 2 workshops this summer based on the comprehensive health and phys ed. And the second of those workshops was addressing the public questions and answers and putting out resources.
At this time, I close this time of citizen comments on agenda items and moving on to resolutions. Oh, I'm sorry. You want to promote? Good evening, Miss.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. Christina Ramos, 382 Teaneck Road. I first want to congratulate the pre-K for kicking off and starting so quickly. But I can't help but wonder what exactly, this is going to be costing us. I know that we got the grant, and I wanted to just verify and confirm that the money that we got for the grant is covering the pre-K in its entirety. And I forgot how much it was that we received. I think it was 230K. Is that correct?
Correct.
Is this money covering everything? It just seems to be, I mean, it's a lot, but when you're running a program this size and with all the salaries and expenses to take into account, I'm just wondering if this is being covered.
100% by the state.
Okay. So again, congratulations that it was moved along quite quickly, and I'm hoping that it continues successfully and that we continue to receive the funds we need in order to cover this program in its full capacity. And also congratulate Miss Berlinda Rodriguez, who's been pushing for this for years. So I'm glad, I'm sure you're happy to hear this finally kicked off. Congratulations to you. And thank you for your consistent power behind this and your passion behind it. And I'm sure that I wish this program was around when my kids were little, but it's okay. As long as other parents will be able to, and students and kids of our future are going to be able to take advantage of this program, that's great. I also wanted to congratulate the soccer boys and girls team for coming out. I love that you came down to advocate for yourselves and the conditions that you are forced to practice in and play in. I agree with you. I believe that sometimes some sports in our district have been taking over the spotlight and prioritized over other sports, which I don't think is fair. I believe that the same treatment for all sports should go across the board, not just for football. And I hope that you guys put more attention to what the students came down to tell you about. I think this has been an ongoing issue that you've known about, but haven't done anything about. And hopefully now that it's been brought to your attention once again, someone or you guys can join forces together and finally have it taken care of. And I think that's about it on agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Any more hands? Okay, I'd like to move on to resolutions then. Faculties and programs with trustee
President
Rodriguez.
Fernandez, should we allow our young people to leave? It's 10, I know it's getting late for them.
Yes, I'm sorry. We're gonna have to build this in.
Gabby and Ashley. Thank you.
Gabby and
You're
Ashley,
welcome
thank
to
you
leave
so
if you want
much.
to.
Trustee Rodriguez, would you mind moving faculties and programs, please?
Yes, I just have I just want to say something really quick. Is that okay? So at our last faculties and programs committee meeting, we did briefly discuss Linkit and how there is a parent portal. And in the near future, hopefully parents would have access to that. But I just have a question. You had mentioned that Linkit is a standards-based assessment, correct?
It mimics, correct, the NJSLA in the question data bank that it uses, correct.
So it mimics the NJSLA, and they took the assessment in October, I believe, and they're going to take it in January, and at the end, right before NJSLA.
Correct.
So would it be possible, parents to receive information on these other formative assessments. So would it be possible for the parents to have access to that information now? And that way the parents can somehow assist and know where the deficiencies are? Is the report very similar in JSLA that it breaks it down by skill? We can continue this conversation in faculty and program if you want. I'm so sorry, but I just.
No. Berlinda, I want to give credit to sorry, Ms. Rodriguez, I want to give credit to the question, because what I think it gets at is giving our parents more information so at home they know the skills that they can help their students with. And I'm very supportive of that. But this goes back to working with the leadership team and ensuring that they have buy-in. And as you know, because of your educational background, that's not something I want to answer tonight, because it goes back to our teachers and the instructional practices they have in their classrooms and how they have parent-teacher conferences constantly. So that's a question I will bring back to the leadership team to give you a better answer.
So the data may be shared during parent-teacher conferences?
Again, I'm going to take that to my leadership team and ask them that question to give you a better answer.
I so move FP, I got it, 1001 to FP 1005.
Is there a second?
Second.
Are there any questions on faculty and program 10.01 to 10.05?
I just want to make a comment. I am happy to see from in 10.04 with the field, actually it's 10.03, the younger students are being taken out on the field trips in the community. It's typically something that's been left to when they get to like the high school level, which, it's important for the younger ones to be exposed to these activities.
Seeing no questions. Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes, and I'm an abstention on 10.02.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Mr. Vercelli,
Yes.
and President Fernandez.
Yes, in making a comment on 10.4, I want to commend our district and our local law enforcement on this agreement. Thank you. Keep moving on to finance and insurance. Trustee Gomes.
Before I move this, 12.04, is there a typo because it says custodial overtime? The title is busing overtime.
Yes. 1203.
Correct,
Right.
bus overtime, but in the resolution itself, it says custodial overtime.
That
It
that
should
is a
say-
typo.
Yeah,
Should
should
be
say.
busing, right? Okay. I so moved resolutions 12.01 to 12.08.
Second.
Are there any questions on resolution finance and insurance 12.01 to 12.08? Seeing none, Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mr. Vercelli,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes, I'm an abstention on FI 12.01.
okay. Yeah, I have that. And President Fernandez.
Yes, noted on the minutes that we'll correct 12.04. Thank you. Consent agenda, trustee Martinez, if you wouldn't mind moving.
On 1301, I so move.
Second.
Are there any questions on consent agenda 13.01? Seeing none. Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
I'm an abstention.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Vercelli,
Yes.
and President Fernandez.
Yes. Moving on to personnel, trustee Gibbons.
Yes, I so move 14.01 to 14.18.
Second.
Second.
Are there any questions on personnel 14.01 to 14.18?
Yes, I have one question. I know there's a contract between Little Ferry and Rigefield Park with busing, and I just want to know where we stand, and are we going to get some kind of notification as it relates to our contract? If there's a change with respect to the position and or any part of the contract, maybe we can reach out to Little Ferry in some kind of form or fashion and address that.
Mr. Petros, thank you for the question. I will research that and I will have an answer for you.
Yeah, I would just refer back to the contract. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros. I know there are certain abstentions in here.
With all the ones I need to abstain from, and no to 14.14. Thank you.
Mr. Gibbons, oh, I said, sorry, Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Mr. Vercelli,
Yes.
and President Fernandez.
Yes. That concludes our resolutions for this evening. I'd like to open up the floor for our citizens' comments off agenda items. Please note the time so we can start our hour. Donna Duran. Good evening, miss. How are you?
How are you? Okay, before I start, I'd just like to make a statement concerning,
Miss-
Donna
yeah.
Duran, 16 Sabina Street, Little Ferry. Good? Okay. I would just like to make a statement. The purpose of the citizen hearing is for people to get up and ask questions about the district. You're shaking your head. You okay? Can you hear me? Okay, I just want to,
I think the purpose of the citizens' comments is actually for comments, not
yes,
not
but
for questions.
let me finish.
Oh,
Let me finish, and then you could refer back to mine, okay? It's to ask questions, if possibility, if they have, make concerns, questions about the district, come up and basically ask questions or see what's going on in the district. The purpose of the citizens hearing is not for other citizens to get up and call other citizens that approach this microphone names. That's not the purpose of this. I want to just make that perfectly clear. At the last meeting, there was name calling. Okay? Simple as that. My other question is, are these meetings recorded? Yes. Okay, so I'm going to submit an OPRA request right now for the minutes that I'm going to OPRA request the recording of last month's meeting dated September 21st, 2022. It was approved tonight, so I can have access to that. So I will give this before I leave to the BA.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. My other question is, I'd like to know an update on the ethic charges that this Board of Education has filed against the previous superintendent, Ms. Angela Bender. I'd like to know what's going on in front of that, please.
Miss, I think that's a legal matter at this time, so we cannot make a comment on it.
It's not a legal matter. It's not litigation. It's a question of where you are with it. Because under School Ethics Act 18A 12-21, the definition of it, when you file the ethics charges, you have 90 days to go in front of the committee for the hearing. I just need to know when the ethics charges were filed.
President Fernandez, would you like me to address that?
Sure.
The ethics charges were filed and the School Ethics Commission has ordered them to be held in abeyance until a lawsuit that is related to them is completed. So the School Ethics Commission has indicated it is not going to take action at this time. It is waiting on them.
Can you please let me know the date they were filed, please? The ethics charges, the date they were filed.
I can get that for you. I don't have that right now.
Okay, thank you. My other question is concerning the bus coordinator. I'm not going to mention anybody's name. I just have a couple questions concerning that. It's not going to pertain to you, the superintendent. The bus coordinator comes under the direction of the BA. My questions, if it's okay, will be directed to the BA.
I'd prefer that those questions come to the superintendent, please.
They would come to you, but sure, but I want you to answer my questions. Just off, who is the bus coordinator? Who is his supervisor? Not you, it's the BA, correct?
The superintendent is the supervisor of all district employees.
Under the job description of the school business administrator, it states the qualifications when you hired any school business administrator, that they in charge of transportation. Reports to supervisors, okay, food service and transportation. That is what the BA is in charge of. If you go to the BA's job description, which this board approved on November 14th, 2018, it states facilities and operations. Number 4, the BA is responsible for safe, efficient operation of student transportation program, ensures proper maintenance of district-owned buses, reviews routes, enhances business aspects of contracted transportations. That's in number 4. Number 7, files with executive county superintendent.
Ma'am, I think your questions or your line of questioning is verging on.
Let me finish, please, before you interrupt me. Thank you. On number 7, the BA has to file a county report to the superintendent. Do you know anything about that?
A county report to the superintendent?
Okay, I'll read it. Files with the executive county superintendent a report listing the names, social security numbers in each bus driver, substitute bus driver, and certifications of a valid school bus driver with criminal record background check.
I'm going to ask Mrs. Wright to weigh in on this as far as this line of questioning. If you could help me as far as answers to this.
Why? Why?
I would like to check with Mrs. Wright about those kinds of answers. Can you ask the question again, please?
I just need to know, when did the BA, as part of the contract and a part of her job description, file with the executive county superintendent the report?
I will have to research that because I don't have that at my fingertips, and I will get back to you about that.
So if the question is just when was a certain report filed, you can answer that question when you get the answer.
And I will when I get the answer.
Okay, concerning when the bus coordinator was removed from the building on September 16th at 9:30 a.m., was Little Ferry notified about this?
There was communication to the superintendent of Little Ferry. Yes.
What time was the communication sent to the superintendent of Little Ferry?
The superintendent and I had communications days prior to that incident.
Was the superintendent notified of the bus coordinator being removed from the district at 9:30 in the morning on September 16th? Simple yes or no?
That specific activity at that specific time? No.
Mr. N, your time is up. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Will I be able to come back with my
No,
other
we're only
questions?
unloading 5 minutes to each participant.
Okay, I have my OPRA
I'll
request.
take that from you. Thank you. Thank you for your comments.
Thank you.
Jay Sean Sadler. Okay, Janet Malloy. Good evening, miss.
Good evening, Janet Malul, 163 East Grand. There's a lot of stuff going through my mind tonight. And one of the things, and I don't know whether it's on agenda, off agenda, I really don't care at this point. I don't understand how we allow so many people to run for an office or to become on the board when each one of them or a pretty good majority of the people seem to have to recuse themselves because of some connection here, there, or whatever. If you got kids on the board, if you've got family members on the board, why are you running for these positions? And that's just a blanket question, because it's a conflict of interest down the line. And I really think that's something that we need to really look at as a community. You know, if it wasn't for being able to take this, I forget what you guys call it, you know, basically, okay, well, I'll recuse myself from this and I'll recuse myself from that. But now we've got everybody recusing themselves, so we can't get a majority vote on it. So then all of a sudden we throw that out the window and we say, okay, we're allowed to vote or something like that.
Are you referring to when we're abstaining from something?
Right.
So
But if the
Trustee
majority
Fitros
is,
is abstaining because it has nothing to do with his district.
that's different. That's different. But I'm talking about people that are
Doctrine of
abstaining.
necessity.
Excuse me?
She's talking about the doctrine of necessity.
Right. Thank you.
No problem.
So, okay, but it's been invoked. And I'm just looking at that as a global piece. And I don't know if anybody running or that's rerunning has that conflict, but I'm just throwing it out there because you were talking about quorums and things like that. I just think I'm seeing in a lot of things going on in town that there seems to be conflicts all over the place. And that's just something I'm kind of throwing out there.
Smooth. Sorry, that used to be a really big problem on the board.
And it seems to be lessening.
Where the
But I
doctrine of
think
necessity
it's
was
still-
invoked,
right.
but at present, I think there's only one board member with a family member in district.
Okay.
Some of them might be union-related abstentions.
Okay. It just seems to me that there shouldn't be a need for that. The other thing is, okay, on our screen, we can't, like, I can see Mr. Fitros on screen here. Here, we don't see it. Is there any reason why we can't see who's actually from the board members, et cetera? If you look at our screen, we don't see any of that. So that's just another piece to throw out there. And the third thing is, again, where do we stand with our junior high kids? Everything I'm hearing, or a lot of what I'm hearing, seems to be they are like the lost souls down here. And I still say that you're handling this totally wrong. 7th and 8th graders, way back in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, were considered mini high school kids. And all the research out there on middle schools has basically proven that they should not be treated as such. And I just feel like we have taken the kids that need a huge amount of support right now, especially coming back from COVID. And we are just like, they're here, just like they are as if they were 9 through 12. And again, I'm going to say it's the wrong way to be handling it. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Mrs. Malul, because we invested so much and spent so much time planning for 7th and 8th grade as we reopen the school this year, I'd invite you, please, to make an appointment with me and Mrs. Cavins to talk about all of the support systems we have in place specifically for our 7th and 8th grade students. I look forward to having that discussion with you.
Mr. Rand, Mr. Rand, I have the answer for you. It's December 16th. Jennifer Schmidt.
Hello again. Do I have to say my address again?
Yes, ma'am.
Jennifer Schmidt, 138 Fifth Street. Okay, so I reviewed the busing audit that just took place. And a couple questions, somewhat related to the audit, more related to your actions recently regarding busing. So it looks like you fired the busing coordinator and then you made at least 5 drivers full-time. My questions, do they get benefits?
Full-time employees get benefits, yes.
So the newly appointed full-time bus drivers all get benefits. What is this all costing the taxpayers? Is it less than the former plan for sharing the part-timers with Leonia and the other districts? Or otherwise, how did we manage to find the $52,000 per each full-time bus employee?
I can answer that. The part-time drivers were working at least 40 hours a week. We were going to get a hit with a charge from the Department of Labor because that's not legal. You can't call workers part-time and have them driving 40 to 50 hours. So it really was a matter of hedging our bet because that was the right thing to do.
That was even with sharing the part-timers?
We don't really share part-timers. There aren't that many.
Okay, yeah, I know why. But then they qualify for benefits as well.
They qualify for single benefits initially.
Okay. I also see that the job description for the transportation coordinator says that their job performance should be evaluated annually in accordance with state law. So it seems per the audit that some of the trainings and the testings that were mandatory by the state for the drivers haven't been done since 2018. And I'm just wondering if you're conducting annual reviews of the busing coordinator, isn't that something you'd probably recognize in those annual reviews?
I'll pick up an answer from Mr. Egan and say, I'm not sure about the past, but I know going forward that we take the findings of that audit seriously and make sure that those things happen in the future now.
But they didn't happen. They didn't happen in the past. So someone was supposed to be doing it this whole time. And if they weren't, why? Who was it who was supposed to be doing it? And doesn't that pose a huge risk to our children that are riding the buses? Was anybody concerned for the kids? Because I heard a lot of bad mouthing for the last few years, several years, about the busing coordinator, all kinds of things, yet it seems no one gave him a review. I OPRA requested, I asked just for dates of when those reviews took place. That was also mandated by the state, just like the drug testing and everything else that didn't take place. If you had yearly reviews of the busing coordinator, it seems that you would have realized there was an issue. But we don't care about the kids. Speaking of what doesn't add up to me, I thought it was odd that the letter you sent out about the transportation and the reorganization detailed all the people that the buses serve, yet not once did it mention special needs children when they're a huge portion of what gets bused. So I have another question. Now that we've fired the busing coordinator and we have a new one, are we now providing the proper training to the bus aides?
We're putting into practices everything that is listed in that report moving forward.
So since he was terminated, have we put bus aides on buses that haven't had training?
We are providing training.
So no bus aides made it to any buses, special needs buses in particular, that did not receive the proper training since he was terminated.
The first thing that we did, drivers are taking defensive driving classes because in light of the recent accident in which a driver was backing up on a highway, I mean, that was a pretty serious thing. So first we're focusing on defensive driving. The acting coordinator has the documentation to start the training and he will start it. It's just, he's trying to reroute students. We can't tackle everything in 1 month that had been functioning so poorly.
Which I completely understand. It's just that we have special needs children, mine included, riding buses. We're making a big to-do on social media and everywhere else about how horrible this is, that these aides and things did not have the proper training. Then we find out about it and we literally put a special needs bus aide onto a special needs bus with no training right after. And she quit after the first day. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms., for your comments. Susan DeSantis.
Well, I guess I'd like to thank Jenny for getting the answers that you couldn't give me.
Name and address,
Mr.
please.
Excuse me?
Name and address, please.
Did you forget it already? I just gave it to you before. It's the same name, same address. The online agenda. Nobody can figure this agenda out. I have people asking me all the time, can you give me the link to this? Can you give me the link to that? Because they can't find the agenda. It's very convoluted and you've gone from a very simple access to the agenda and the attachments to this convoluted outside thing. And it's really difficult. You should really go back to where it was. Mr. Egan, I'd like to welcome you. I've heard many things about you. First, that you're, a good buddy of one of our past administrators that's going to come in here and do everything these people want. And I've heard that you're also tough and you're going to really take them to task. I hope that the latter is true. I sent you an email today and I asked you if you could continue providing the information on the cost of the litigation with Dr. Bender and where the litigation with Little Ferry stands, and if you would add the litigation with Ms. Thiemann to that.
I'm just trying to catch up with everybody, but I'm not going to get involved in individual legal matters. If it's already been turned over to the attorneys, I'm not getting involved in that. Moving forward, I'm not looking to straighten everybody out. I'm not looking to go back to the past. As I said initially, I'm looking to go forward and to make sure everything going forward is correct.
Okay, so you won't provide us the amount that the taxpayers are paying for litigation?
That's not my job to do that.
Okay.
You go to administration, file your OPRA request, and you can get all that information. Once again, what I'm looking to do is to go forward, to make sure that everything going forward is done correctly.
Okay, Dr. Haynes, could you not answer that question?
I'm sorry, what the question again?
The litigation as of today with Dr. Bender, the litigation with Ms. Thiemann, and where the Little Ferry litigation stands, the cost of it all.
So I don't have those numbers at my fingertip, but I think Mr. Egan correctly said, and I'll research this answer for you, so I'm correct on it, file an OPRA request so that we can do the research and provide you with accurate answers.
Okay, the testing last week was a complete nightmare. Kids had late lunches, kids weren't bused to the other districts for the testing. The kids came in late, the seventh and eighth graders, the seventh graders and the seniors sat here for hours waiting, even though they had a delayed opening. What's going to be done next year to correct that, to make sure that this doesn't happen again?
Again, that's something I will have to research and I will provide you with an answer.
Thank you.
Ed DeSantis.
Ed DeSantis, I live at the same address as Susan, 15 Homestead Place, Ridgefield Park. One thing I forgot before was I'm remiss in thanking Carrie Grapstein for the effort you're making to ensure our new and revised busing system is safe, and the progress you're making and taking care of organizing the audit the board asked for. And that I have a good feeling, a good confidence we're on a right path to maybe getting that system being what it should be. So thank you. Mr. Fernandez and Dr. Haynes. Ms. Ramos asked if the preschool funding was covering the whole program. Now, we found out last meeting that the coordinator's salary is not covered. So why not just give the actual answer? Transparency, transparency, transparency.
Mr. DeSantis, I was clear in my answer last time, and I will give you the same answer this time. The funding from the state covers all of the students off-site at that location. That's what I answered last time.
Mr. Fernandez, the answer was it covered everything. That's not.
I
the case.
misspoke. My apologies to you.
Okay, well, that's good. Oh, yeah.
Move on.
Thank you. To see which one of these is more important, I know what's on agenda, but my comments are totally global. The test scores really still are abysmal. And despite whatever dysfunction we have at the upper levels of the district, teachers are continuing to teach, students are continuing to learn. We still put a mark on our test scores of the state average. And this has been a long time gripe of me, many other past board members, many citizens. That's not a goal. If we're not meeting state average, which I'll consider a C, where are we? The math scores are terrible, and English scores aren't much better. We see little improvement, but we're not even at the average yet. And the average should be way behind us. And I hope the concentration towards to meeting mediocrity comes to an end, and we can look forward to something more. The other thing is about enrollment. I would hope the district, I know Mr. Cathcart has given a few small updates, and I'm watching my time. We have a lot of students coming in, and I'd like to know in a simple answer, not a long, lengthy answer, what steps we are taking to be prepared.
Some of these plans, I believe we're considering having a town hall with our building department and to discuss these ongoing developments throughout our town. We speak about this ongoing in our Buildings and Grounds Committee, being that we have the resource of Mr. Cathcart being on that committee at the town level as well. So this is ongoing. It is being discussed, and it's not going to be a 1 year, 2 year. It has to be, 3, 4, 5 years down the road that we're considering this plan. Sir.
That's good. That's good, because we know from past experience, it takes time to get the plans and then to break ground or whatever the plan is. It takes a lot of input. I hope there'll be a committee of citizen input like it's been in the past too, where people can look at other ideas, possibilities, and to come to some kind of agreement as to what the best method is. Of course,
Absolutely.
with the board
Absolutely.
and with the building department.
We do plan to schedule a town hall for that specific reason, sir.
Okay, thank you for your time.
Yeah, and we have spoken with the counselors and our mayors of the town to schedule this. So it is in our radar, sir.
All right, thank you.
John R. John R.
Thank you, sir.
Can you give me your last name, your address, please?
Oh, yes, Raftery, 54 Euclid Avenue.
Thank you, sir.
I would like to ask the board at this time to hold our acting superintendent of schools totally responsible for the breakdown of the transportation department. I haven't seen or heard anyone suggest or look into exactly what happened. And Dr. Haynes seems to be answering what we're doing moving forward, but not what broke down. And how can we avoid that from happening again? I can save everybody a whole bunch of time and trouble. We had a 10-year protected employee who answered to nobody, ran the place into the ground, and it blew up. Sounds to me a lot like our Board of Education. Everything is hush hush, no answers, no accountability. And that's exactly what we're doing. The state is going to step in here and we're all going to be screwed. So I hope that the board would look at transportation and understand my message there. There is no communication here at all. There is no communication in transportation. Nobody answered to anybody. And all Dr. Haynes seems to want to do is sweep it under the rug. Forget about $500,000 in taxpayers' money, right? Forget about it. What do we want to know about? What do we need to know? That's a personnel matter. That's not personnel. Transportation is transportation, paid for by the taxpayers, and we're entitled to some sort of explanation as to exactly what occurred.
Mr.
I'd like our
Raftery.
state monitor to note against,
Mr.
once
Raftery.
again, lack of transparency
Mr.
on
Raftery.
part of the superintendent of schools with the taxpayers of Rigefield Park. Thank you.
Mr. Raftery, you were present when the board passed to have that busing audit, weren't you? Were you not present the day of us passing that resolution to have a busing audit?
Yes, I was.
Okay, the board passed it unanimously. That's
Yes,
not
the
only
board
as-
passed
when
it
you
u-
served it asking for transparency. We released the report. It was we posted the report on our website.
Yes, you did. Yes,
Okay,
you
So
did.
you're asking for transparency.
Yes.
Correct?
Okay, well, let me reply
Okay,
to
you've
that.
had 2.5 weeks to digest that report, haven't you?
I am not denying any of
Okay.
that, sir. Okay?
You-
But I will.
I'm just trying to stress to you how much this board is working on clear and transparency to every stakeholder.
I just want to reply to that real quickly.
Yes, sir.
When the question,
The way that happened was one meeting we hired 3 full-time drivers. Next meeting, we wanted to hire 3 more drivers. The question was asked, why are we hiring more drivers? We just hired more drivers. Several members of the board gave answers. The one that strikes me the most is, well, it's going to be by trial and error.
I don't remember any board member.
I
answering that.
remember it distinctly, and I will pull it from if you'd like to see it, okay?
Sure, sure. So, but you did hear it from our BA's mouth that we are trying to effectively change our policies and procedures within the district, hire within the guidelines. If they're meeting their 40 hours, obviously they're no longer part-time, they're full-time.
I do not.
Okay.
I completely understand it. I have no questions about that at all. If Ms. Grapstein says it's right, I have confidence in her that it's right. I'm not here to question
Again,
that
we're
at
here to
all.
govern, not run. We're here to govern the district, not run the district.
I am asking you to hold Dr. Haynes accountable for that. He is the superintendent of schools, has been for 2 years now, and I expect an answer from him as to exactly what happened and how did transportation break down.
But if I could say something, I think we've only had 3 full-time bus drivers for all these buses for at least 5 years. So for the last 5 years, we've had a bunch of part-time people driving these buses. So previous to Mrs. Grapstein and previous to Dr. Haynes, the previous superintendent and the previous interim BA oversaw this process where there were part-timers then and the state monitor at the time. And they all oversaw this. We went through numerous budgets. There were still only 3 full-timers. There was no money for benefits and to hire more people at the time back in 2016, 17, 17, 18, 18, 19, 2021. So this is not a new issue. We've now started to get all these full-timers now in the last month and a half. But for 5 or 6 years, everything was being watched and overseen by the BA at the time, the fiscal state monitor, and everything that was run fiscally through the district was overseen by the state monitor. So if we weren't getting any more than 3 full-timers at that time, and now we're getting them, what's the difference?
How many full?
Just
I'm
let me
sorry.
finish my point, please.
Your point is completely off point because I am not
No,
debating
it's
full-time bus drivers.
Hold on.
I am speaking
Why
about
is it that the judge,
accountability.
jury, when only you can speak? Why can't anybody else have a comment? It's not.
I haven't denied anybody any time. You're talking
Here's
about.
the difference between your comment and mine. Mine is an FACT fact. Go back 3 full-timers for years. And we had a bunch of part-timers pasted together and also people working in Little Ferry and Pagoda and other districts pushing this whole process through. That's a fact. So
I
continue
have
with
not heard anybody say it's not a fact, Mr. Theodore, okay? I didn't say that, Wolf. I didn't say anything like that at all.
All right.
I am speaking about accountability.
I'll be quiet.
Accountability.
Mr. Rafferty.
Mr. Rafferty.
Can I make a quick comment? Maybe not so quick, but I'll try to be brief. But when we talk about accountability, we have to realize that I hold myself responsible as a citizen in Rigefield Park because how we voted on boards is important and elections have consequences. We have had so many superintendents and BAs that every time I try to put down the right number, I'm afraid I'm off by 1 or 2. And so some of these problems happened for a long time, and I'm just as guilty as everybody else. I heard the rumors about certain departments. I heard the rumors about busing. I heard the rumors about a bunch of different things, and I didn't go up the proper chain of command and complain like I should have. And so I think we have to all hold ourselves responsible. Not Ms. Grapstein just got here. Dr. Haynes just got here. We can hold them responsible for what happens on their watch, but we also have to hold ourselves responsible for what happened on our watch. I've been paying a ton of taxes in this district, and I wasn't holding people accountable until I ran for the board. And so I encourage everybody, if you see something, say something. Don't just rumor about it on Facebook. Go up the proper chain of command until your question gets answered, because we're all guilty of letting this town rot.
When I asked Dr. Haynes at the last meeting what the chain of command was for transportation. He refused to answer me. Yes, and what are you looking so
Answer.
surprised about?
Mr. Crabtree, please. We're trying to keep our meeting going, please. We're over our time.
I think I said as far as chain of command that the superintendent is the supervisor of all district employees. I want to make a couple of points to your statements, Mr. Raftery. Since I've gotten here and worked with Ms. Grapstein and listened to the board, we have put out we have hired 3 consultant teams to do reports in the district because we have heard that things aren't running. Let's say there are opportunities for improvement. So as far as transportation, the board held me accountable correctly to say some things aren't going as well as they could. Can we please hire an outside consultant? Working with Mrs. Grabstein, we made that happen and found the report to take action on it that will improve our district. We have 2 more out there. We have a security audit. We've hired a firm to do that, and a technology audit for security of our network and our technology facilities that we are looking forward to. But that's how things happen. I've worked with other boards and I've worked with other districts, and a dysfunctional way of doing that is having either the superintendent or the business administrator internally do investigations. It's much better for the district that we hire an outside consultant, as the board asked us to do, who comes back with a report, who then that we can take action on. So in summary, Mrs. Grabstein and I are working together to not only do this report, but other reports that we hope to use to improve the district.
All right, Dr. Haynes, that sounds fair enough. My last question real quick, because I know my time is up, okay? Everybody has read the transportation report. You brought him in and you terminated him. 3 days later, you removed to change the termination to a leave of whatever you called it, okay? Is there a reason for that?
That's a personal question, sir.
That's not a personnel question.
That is a personal question.
No, I'm asking
It was a
him.
recommendation by the Board of.
That is not a
Acting.
personnel
Yes, it
question.
is.
I'm asking him why he changed his mind.
What resolution did it fall under?
I asked the state monitor
Personnel.
to note again,
Okay,
lack
sir.
of transparency.
Thank you for your comments tonight. I hope we answered it as much as we could for you. Leslie Gottlieb.
Leslie Gottlieb, 464A Liberty Street, apartment 102. Just a few questions. Were the Little Ferry students included in the communication that I saw on the website? Did they get a copy of it, the ones who take the bus back and forth?
Around October 3rd, I sent out a school messenger. So I can't remember the date exactly. It was at the beginning of October. All students who were bused, special needs students, Little Ferry students, out of district students, all busing students were given notification.
Okay. Second questions. You put these busing coordinator as a, sorry, this might have been on agenda, but the busing coordinator is a stipend position, right? That means he's getting paid extra in addition to for doing those roles? The guy who's doing it now?
Correct.
Can I ask what his other duties are, or is that a personnel question?
No, his other duty, he is a bus driver. He's a full-time bus driver, and he is earning a stipend to be acting bus coordinator in addition to his work as a bus driver.
Okay, so he said it's not like you took a teacher or something like that. That makes sense.
No, and I don't mind asking or answering. My apologies for not providing a better answer before. So looking back, please accept my apologies. This person who we appointed as acting bus coordinator was a driver for 30 years and a manager of buses. He worked for the Lucky Corporation. And when I talked to Mr. Scarfield about him, he's a well-known individual who works well as a busing driver, who has managerial experiences, who supervised employees while he was at Lucky from 1994, I believe, up until about 2016, until we hired him away from that company, and he hired many of his employees to work with him here. So he has a vast experience in both driving buses, routing buses, supervising employees,
Okay.
and he's a great asset to our district.
Okay, sounds like he should be qualified. Thanks.
Do we have any hands, Miss? No more signups. Can you please promote?
Hi,
Good evening, miss. How are you?
hi, good. This is Jody Kraft, 140 Grand Avenue.
Good evening.
Good evening. I want to commend the soccer team, both the girls and the boys athletes, for coming out tonight to advocate for themselves and for their programs. So a week before the season started, my daughter came home and she was very upset that the soccer program had been moved to Hobart Field. As a lifelong soccer parent here in town, my husband and I have played on Hobart Field on numerous occasions and knew exactly how dangerous this field was for soccer. So I contacted Mr. Ramundi and expressed my concerns, along with multiple other soccer parents. Mr. Ramundi stated to myself and other parents in the program that this was a recommendation, that it was not his decision to move the soccer onto Hobart Field, that it was a recommendation of the town. I quickly reached out to Commissioner Porter Royale, who is in charge of the parks in town, and she was kind enough to meet me at Hobart Field on the Friday prior to the season starting to walk the field so I could express my concerns. Now, mind you, while I was there with Commissioner Porter Royale, the boys soccer team was practicing on the field. We walked the field, and to our dismay, there were numerous pieces of metal sticking out of the field. There were divots all throughout the course of the field that had not been filled, potholes. This, of course, made myself and Mrs. Porter Royale concerned, and she assured me that the decision was not made by the town to move soccer, that it could have been a recommendation. So I have a couple of questions regarding the chain of command. I certainly understand that the fields are overseen by the town, but I'd like to know first and foremost, who ultimately made the decision to move the soccer program onto Hobart Field? That's my first question, because I still haven't gotten a concrete answer to that question. My second question is, whose obligation is it to walk the field to ensure the safety of our athletes? Because clearly with the boys soccer team playing on it and practicing on it the Friday before the season started, no one either in the district or the town had done their due diligence to ensure that the field was safe for play, because it clearly was not. So I want to know, whose responsibility is it to ensure the safety of the fields prior to our athletes playing on them? And then my third, I have actually two more questions. My next question is, I had been told by Commissioner Porter Royale that Mr. Ramundi stated that Overpeck County Park was not an option for our athletes anymore because students were told did not want to play on that field anymore, and that parents were iffy about having kids being on buses. My daughter's been an athlete in the district for 4 years. We have never once been asked whether or not we want to play at Overpeck. Parents have not been asked, students have not been asked, so I'm unclear as to why our athletes aren't given the option to play at Overpeck Park, because it's my understanding that when the park was first built, we were to have first dibs to all of the fields because of the proximity to the park to our schools. And my last question is, as far as with the athletic budget, I'd like to know how the money is allocated per sport, because there seems to be inequity across the district with regards to sports. I know that there were issues with the volleyball team and uniforms, and it just seems to be inequitable across all of the athletics. And I'd like to know how the athletic budget is divvied up among sports and who oversees that. Thank you.
So thank you for all the questions, Mrs. Kraft. I will say, because you contacted me, I do want to be transparent in this communication, and with statements that were serious enough to me and caring about our sports players, that after you made those recommendations, I think I reported back to you, I walked the fields with Mrs. Porterreal, and she, as a commissioner, she said she would remediate them. I came back a week later to walk the field again with her, and she showed me the remediations. So I'm disappointed to hear that the remediations were not enough to support our students. And this is where I am thrilled that Mr. Egan and I will be discussing this in the future. But I did want to report that back on it. I think you're aware of that. The Overpeck field, I too was told, and I'm going to work with this with Mr. Egan and Mrs. Porterreal, was informed that that was not an option for our students to play on. And budgeting, this is almost like the reports that we're asking about. Budgeting equitable budgeting for all of our athletes is something that we should look into, and I will come back to you with an answer. And I thank you for the question.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. Graff. Do we have anybody? Okay, please promote. Okay, well,
Hello,
right after this, we'll,
can you hear me?
yes.
Hello.
Oh, yes, we can hear you.
Hi, Christina Ramos, 382 Teaneck Road. Going back to the busing situation, it's fair to say that nobody was able to get a handle on the situation for years because of the in and out of our superintendents going through so many of our BAs. We had no stability in these positions. It was a revolving door. We're a dysfunctional district. So there was no way for anyone to get a whole picture of what was actually happening. As Dr. Martinez said, there was rumors, there was things said, and the information came across the board several times. Not necessarily all the new board members, but many of the old board members for the past few years. And the reason why many of these board members run year after year and want to maintain control in our school board, on our board, is because they wanted to continue to cover for their friends. So if anybody has any questions as to why this went on so long, you can ask those board members who got voted in year after year, who turned a blind eye to many of these things going on that they knew about, like Mr. Cathcart, like Mr. Fernandez, like Mr. Gibbons, like Mr. Vercelli, and who knew about these things happening, but didn't do anything or say anything and let it go by, because they knew this person on a personal level. And you know what? Many of us knew this person on a personal level. I'm extremely disappointed that this has gone on for so long. And I would be more upset at the individual who was running this program, who said that he knew everything and he knew what he was doing, and he was the director of busing, and trying to flip the script now onto other people and act like they're responsible for what he was responsible for. Let's stop with the nonsense. Let's stop playing the game. Let's stop trying to shuffle the blame over to other people. Let's move on. Mr. Egan said, let's move forward. This person has been terminated. I thank Mrs. Grapstein for taking charge, taking the bull by its horns, finally getting this situation under control. It's going to take time, like Mr. Martinez said. This is a problem that's been going on for years. It's not going to get fixed overnight. It's not going to get fixed within the few weeks or the few months, but it will be steadily progressing I believe, in a positive way going forward. So I truly hope that parents and other people listening stop trying to place the blame on other people who literally just got to the district. And we've known very much, especially those of us who've been attending meetings for years, that this has been an ongoing problem. This has been stuff that we found out in the audit report, forensic state audit report, long time ago. There was an issue with time cards being fudged with, and Mr. Cathcart knew about it, but he just wanted to, look over and say, oh, well, we're gonna help them do it right, make it right. But they didn't make it right, made it worse. And here we are. Time to move on. And as far as Janet just reminded me about something, I mentioned about a few meetings ago, Mr. Gibbons working at Little Ferry and him having to recuse himself from certain votes. He mentioned to the public that he would be going to seek an advisory opinion from the Ethics Commission. Was that ever done? Was that ever received? Hello?
Yes, ma'am, we're still here.
Did you hear my question? Did the board ever receive a advisory opinion from the state for Mr. Gibbons?
No, I heard
for
your
his
question. I
employment in Little Ferry?
I don't need to answer that question.
Okay, well, you can just say, you don't have to be rude about it. You could just say, I'm not able to answer this question at this time because I don't want to, or because it's gonna make me look bad if I tell you the truth, but it's okay. I will OPRA a request to see if this information was ever provided, as Mr. Gibbons works in Little Ferry, and it is a conflict of interest because he works on a personnel committee. Again, take accountability and stop trying to hide behind lies, because everything in this life comes to air and everybody's going to know about it, just like this busing situation.
Thank you for your comments. I think we have two members of the public that would like to come up. Is it Lourdes? Good evening, miss. How are you?
Lourdes Vilasuso, 37 Poplar Avenue, Little Ferry, New Jersey. My granddaughter is attending Rigefield Park. She's from Little Ferry. And she has been involved in sports since she was 4 years old. She plays softball. And it's very sad to see that with the money that the school has, they can provide these kids with a decent uniform. Those uniforms are old. They are supposed to be black and red, white and red, and they are pink and red. And these girls that are representing Rigefield Park, wherever they go to play, they have to go with those uniforms. It's a disgrace. When we asked for new uniforms for this year, we were told that the school doesn't pay for those uniforms. So we as the parents, we need to do whatever we can so our girls can present themselves in a professional way. I don't think that's fair. I was talking with the girls from the soccer team, and they have the same situation. Why, if the school have the monies, why they can provide all these athletes at all levels, any sports that you have here, why you can provide a decent uniform for these kids? Right now, since they are very young, we start talking to them, be involved in sports. That's good for you. It's gonna help you in the long way. And now they come to this level and they were used to have the best of the best. And when they come here, no, your parents have to do whatever they have to do if you want uniforms. That is not acceptable. Why is this happening? Where is the money, the budget for all the athletes going? Is going just to one sport and the rest do whatever you can do? I think all the athletes should have uniforms provided by the school. I will ask Mr. Egan to please help us with this. Right now we're crazy doing fundraisers to come with the money to give it to the school so the school can provide them with uniforms. It's not fair. It's not fair. Use the money that you have in the budget and provide, I'm not saying softball, all the sports equally the money that they deserve. I would like to have some answers by the next board meeting. I'm also, I serve as a trustee in the Little Ferry Board of Ed, so I know how important this is. So please, I would like to have an answer on this matter for, on the next board meeting. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Miss. Good evening, Miss. How are you? Name and address?
Aniuska Gutierrez, 75 Christie Street.
Thank you.
So I did hear you, Dr. Haynes, that you said that you hired some kind of consultant for security. Is that correct? When you were saying about security, for the security of the school, the,
Audit, right. We are doing 3
Okay.
reports or audits, correct?
so this is what happened on Monday. I usually get out of work at 5, but my daughter's been playing sports. She's been playing soccer, and I went to pick her up, and I drove behind the school to meet her by the football field. Door number 8 was propped open, being held with a rock. And I understand that there's construction going on, and I understand all of that. But no door should be open when there's children present and our teachers and our staff. That is a major security violation, and I don't want to hear anything about, oh, we have changing the windows, we have construction. No, that's why we have double doors at the main entrance so people cannot get into school. I shouldn't be able to get out of my car and walk into the school. I shouldn't. It's unacceptable. I did send an email to Ms. Cavins. She did reply to me, but that is not okay. I don't want to hear an excuse about there is construction being done. Do we need to say what happened in Uvalde? I don't want it to happen here. If anything happens here, by the time our kids get up to Overpeck, none of them are going to get there. And that is the reality. I approached Mr. Tatros and I said, do you know that that door is open? And he said, which door? I said, door number 8. And I said, I'm only saying that for your security and the security of my kid. And he stepped back and he said, I will speak to somebody tomorrow. Because we don't think about it on a daily basis. We don't think about it. Oh, it could happen. It could happen. It could happen. So that is unacceptable. I don't ever want to drive around here by the school and see any door open. That's why we have double doors. We don't have 15 cops driving around here protecting us, even though this town has the most cops any town could have. And that is true because you see them all over Main Street. They shouldn't be on Main Street. They should be down here where the teenagers are. There is over 500 teenagers here and students at all times in this school. And we have one principal, one, because we decided to take Ms. Thiemann from here to go take care of 15 students instead of 200. But that's okay. Let's see how that plans out. But security should be our number one concern, security. I've been living in this town for 15 years. I come to these meetings and it's the same. This is like a Spanish soap opera. We yell, you say, I can't answer you. We break up, we make up, and it's just nonstop, nonstop. It's a soap opera. And then different faces because, you know, the boyfriend leaves, the new boyfriend comes in, the girlfriend leaves, the new girlfriend comes in. It's the same thing. It's a soap opera. I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear, I cannot answer you. I'll answer you again. I don't have an answer. No, I want an answer. Just a plain answer. You know what you could say? I don't know. I don't know the answer. That's better than saying, I'll get back to you. And then now we have OPRA reports. I've never seen a person with a binder in a Board of Ed meeting. This woman has a binder. I am the queen of binders. I have a binder for everything in my house, and people that know me know that. She has a binder for the Board of Ed. And she's from Little Ferry. That's even crazier because she's not even for RP. So I just want to say, please, I don't want to see any rocks holding the doors. I want to see cops driving around, not me driving around taking pictures, which I did. And I sent it to a bunch of parents and I sent it to Ms. Gibbons as well. She did reply to me, but that shouldn't happen. I shouldn't drive around and be fearful for my daughter's safety because the door is open and anybody could walk in. And it doesn't have to be an adult, could be an ex-student, anybody. So thank you very much.
So because of the incidents around the nation, I need to be very clear on this. I work very closely with our building administrators. We talk to make sure that the perimeter of our schools is secure. We talk to our SLEOs. I'm in routine conversation with Chief Rella about the security of our schools, and we take it very seriously. So I thank you for bringing the concern to the podium, and I will check that out.
Okay, and we'll move on to new business then. Having any unfinished business, we'll move on to new business. Faculties and programs,
I so move FP 1701.
we have a
Second.
Are there any questions on new business faculty and program 17.01? Seeing none, Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Mr. Vercelli,
Yes.
and President Fernandez.
yes. Moving on to personnel.
I so move 1801 to 1803.
Second.
Are there any questions on new business personnel 18.01 to 18.03? Seeing none, Mr. Gibbons,
Yes.
Mr. Vercelli,
Yes.
Mr. Phytros,
Yes.
Mr. Gomes,
Yes.
Mrs. McNeil,
Yes.
Dr. Martinez,
Yes.
Mrs. Orth,
Yes.
Mrs. Rodriguez,
Yes.
and President Fernandez.
Yes. That concludes new business. Motion to adjourn.
Second.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.